We're gonna have a good time. This is gonna be so incredibly cringe. We watched a lot of cringe things, but this is gonna be really cringe. So we're gonna start out here watching Jimmy Dore, you know, continue down the Nazi pipeline here. So he's gonna be on Tucker Carlson's white nationalist interview thing here. Um, this is gonna be incredible. Here we go. Oh boy. This is going to be one of the most insane things that I think we watched. If it loads. I'm sorry, everybody. You know, my computer is really old. And so if it doesn't work, or if it's slow, that's why. But come on. Come on, load. It is. It really is. I know. Darn, I screwed that up. There we go. What is going on? What the hell is going on? What the hell is going on? Is nothing loading? Uh. Okay, that's kind of loading. So is this going to load? Oh my god. I know. Can you believe this right now? I know. Come on. Come on. Come on. I want what's behind this paywall and I want to stream it. Come on. We'll refresh it one more time. Peepo Sprint. Did you remove the Peepo? I don't think so. It's Peepo Sprint, I think. I think it's like. I think it's that, maybe? Peepo Sprint, yeah. Okay, we're going to try this one more time. What we're going to do. Well, we'll probably try and wind that because we want to watch this. But we're going to exit out of this. And then we're going to paste. Can you believe this right now? Can you believe this? Oh. Oh. It's circling. Circling. It's running. Peepo Sprint. Peepo Sprint. Yeah. Come on. Oh, unafraid. Jimmy Dore, unafraid. Oh, God. Slowly. It's slowly happening. Oh, boy. Come on. Just saying, did they use that picture of him from like 10 years ago or something? I want to play. I want to play. I want to play. What is going on? Won't bow down the establishment, huh? Okay. Oh my god. What is going on right now? Yeah, they did. Oh my God, come on. Why is the internet so bad? Ow. I just want to watch this cringe, insane, like nonsense. We did a serious stream earlier, so now we got to watch this nonsense. Come on. Cat Jam, Cat Jam, Cat Jam. Most people know Jimmy Dore for his stand-up comedy. I really don't. Ah, dang. Unbelievable. It's okay, computer. Come on. Maybe it needs some air. That help? No. Yeah. This sucks so bad. Come on. I just want to watch this. Oh, I'm hard on the copium right now. My God. This is insane. What about this? That loads. What about this? Hashtag anger. Hashtag copium. Hashtag all this to watch a Jimmy Dore video. Huh. Close out of any. Yeah. I'll try it. Um. Copium, copium, copium. Copium, copium, copium. Yeah. Wait, this guy, I need to keep that open because who knows. This connects it out of. And what we're going to do now is we're going to try refreshing it again. Again. Okay. Can you believe this? Mod check? I don't even know what that means. What's going on here? Okay, we'll try one more time. One more time just means I'm going to keep trying it, I guess. I don't know. I said that last time, so. I just want to watch this dumb Jimmy Dore video. So freaking unreal. Okay. All right. Oh, it's all good. I was clapping. We're all good. I was clapping. I don't know what it was gonna do, but I did that. I was clapping. Oh, it's all good. I thought it was gonna. I'm just trying to get my computer's not working, so. all this to watch a Jimmy Dore video. Pause champ. Alright, I'm gonna try one more thing. Um, Maybe it'll open up in Microsoft Edge. I'll try it. Maybe something so dumb needs a browser to match. So let's check it out. So dumb. So freaking dumb. It's all good though. I gotta sneeze. Woo! Okay, it's signed in, so maybe. Okay, okay. Very quietly here. Oh, oh my God. Okay. Wait, what's going on here? Where is it? What the hell is going on? People riot. Plant Discord, Chrome, Explorer, Microsoft Photo. Is this the one? No. What? Snipping tool. Spotify. Notepad. Oh my God.
Welcome to Tucker Carlson. Today, from the beginning of our nighttime show on Fox News, we've tried to invite on people with whom we disagree on a bunch of things, but where we agree on some really important things, where there's a meaningful union set of belief. We do this for two reasons. One, to show that partisanship is mostly an illusion designed to control you. The team sport of politics is a lie. They're not on your team. And the second reason is because it's super interesting, and it reminds us of our common humanity, and you learn things when you talk to people you don't agree with on everything. It expands you as a person. And what's the fun of living if you can't do that? The problem is a lot of people with whom we disagree on some issues can't come on because it gets so viciously attacked when they do. You're a white supremacist. You did that show. That's another means of control, obviously. So we're always grateful for the ones who do, and Jimmy Dore is definitely in that category. He is first and foremost a comedian.
Pause, champ. Yeah, so he is a white. They're both white supremacists, basically, but like Tucker is an out white supremacist. So yeah, there he is sitting in his cabin with his I don't know, green screen of mountains in the background. Anyway,
he's also, I think, a deeply incisive political commentator. He's hosted the Jimmy Dore Show, which streams on YouTube, and we're happy to have him in our studio now. Jimmy Dore, thanks so much for coming on.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
It's my pleasure.
I like to tell people who get upset at me for when I do your show, it's like, well, you shouldn't be upset that I'm doing Tucker's show. You should be thankful that Tucker brings me on to bring my anti-war message and my free speech and defense of Julian Assange to half the country.
No, because you never push back at any of his garbage. Of any of his white nationalism. He goes on a big anti-white hysteria rant, and what do? You don't ever say anything about that, Jimmy.
Country, when you see me on Tucker Carlson, it should make you upset that I'm not on Chris Cuomo.
God, he's so mad already.
Show or Rachel Maddow's show or fake tough guy Lawrence O'Donnell's show. That's what it should trigger you, but they don't. They get triggered that I'm on your show, which is ridiculous, and it shows that they haven't thought it through. And, when people say that they want to organize along class lines, they don't understand what they mean when they say that. Class lines means
you need to organize around all kinds of different lines. You need, organize not just around, one single issue or, just specifically against material, classes or whatever. Classes can mean a lot of different things. They're not just material. They can mean, different kinds of unofficial hierarchies and everything. And also, if you're not concerned about, the oppression of minority groups and everything, and you're just willing to, ally with, white nationalists because they promise you healthcare, a nationalized healthcare system, it's insanity.
Everybody means Trump voters, means everybody in your class. It doesn't mean half the country class. It means the entire country class. And that's what people don't understand. And that's how we have to organize now. And as soon as you do that, Tucker, you...
how does this fool know anything about organizing? Either of these fools. You got Jimmy Dore living in a mansion in Hollywood and all that crap, spouting off all kinds of crap against, the least horrible people. And then you got Mr. Heir to the Swanson TV dinner empire sitting over there, faking his little, man look in his man cabin with his flag. Anyway.
You will be pilloried. I interviewed someone on the other side of the aisle, and they came for...
He interviewed a Boogaloo boy, a literal Nazi guy, and he just he basically just kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, was all over him. He just absolutely loved him. He's like, oh wow, so you're for this? What? Kind of can't believe it.
For me, because
the guy played Jimmy hardcore, and Jimmy's just either too dumb or just at this point, he knows it, and he's just like, hell yeah.
They can't have people on the populist left and the populist right coming together to...
Populist right is, not a real thing. So anyway.
Go against oligarchy, the military-industrial complex, and Wall Street. They can't have that.
It's not a real thing because it's not in the interests of, the most people at all. It can't be populist. It's not even in people's individual interests, even though they think it is.
Well, that is totally true. And I didn't even grow up in that class. And I believe in that completely, that people's fundamental interests are probably economic, actually.
Yes.
And a lot of this stuff is a diversion designed to prevent you from knowing that. You actually are from a working class background. Describe where you came from.
All right.
His dad was a cop.
So I grew up on the southwest side of Chicago in a really blue collar neighborhood. I would say Navy blue collar. And my dad was a cop, and I was the youngest boy, 12 kids.
12 kids?
Yeah. And so we're Catholic, of course.
You think?
And I went to Catholic school, you know, so my parents made sure they put us through Catholic school and all that stuff. So I got a good education that way.
All right.
I also got the crap beat out of me every day too. But that's another thing. It made me who I am. So
Made me who I am. Oh God. Well, that makes sense then. So that makes the argument right there against any kind of treatment of kids like that. And I think he's actually advocating for that. Like, it made me like this, so we should do that. Like, reminds me of there's a broadcaster. He was a baseball broadcaster. His name was Hawk Harrelson for the White Sox and everything. And he kind of told a similar story where, um, growing up in South Carolina or whatever, like the teacher would like be like, "Hey, beat me to the beat me to the door, or like I'm gonna beat you with a ruler or whatever." So pretty messed up stuff. But he was looking back on that fondly and everything. I don't know. Maybe we'll watch that little documentary sometime because we'll do a psychological breakdown of Hawk Harrelson, and it'll be a good time because wow, I feel really bad for the guy. He had a hard life and everything. But anyway, here we go.
I grew up that way, and I got
Why did you get beaten up?
because if you grow up poor people beat the hell out of each other, right? So I would go to school, Catholic school, where they would beat you at Catholic school, right? And then we'd come home, and our parents would beat us at home, and then we'd go to the park.
Okay, that's really fucked up. Jimmy. Okay, see, this is why it's did make him who he is. I mean, it's sad. Like, he's releasing all this like pent up like anger and like sadness and everything from his childhood. Like, it's really sad. Like, I really wish Jimmy would go to a therapist instead of whatever he is doing right now and getting into all this weird like Carl Jungian philosophy and everything, along with all of his political nonsense and everything, which, I mean, Carl Jung is it's political stuff basically. So anyway, let's go on.
And beat other people, and that's just how it works.
It's a circle of beating.
I hated getting hit as a kid, you know, and well, I do a bit in my act about it. And now when someone hits their kid as a grown up, I never know when you're supposed to step in, you know.
I'll be right back. I gotta go turn down the air conditioner because it's loud down here, and I think it's causing lots of sounds. So let me look at the chat here, see if we have one viewer or two. I don't know. We have a viewer. Beat up more kids. That's right. You got it. That's exactly what he's saying. It's really sad. It's really messed up. So I'll be right back. Let's just take a look at Jimmy Dore's family here for a little while. Okay, we're back. Isn't that a fun, nice family picture? Jimmy Dore looks like somebody in that. But anyway, let's go on.
And one time I was in an airport, and this lady's hitting her kid. He's like 5 years old, and she's just wailing on him. And finally, go, hey, why don't you cut it out? You're creeping everybody out, you know? And she goes, no, you have to hit them, make some good people. And I was like, well, how many punches would it take to make you a decent human being?
What did she say?
Turns out 80. Anyway, no, you know, and I have a brother who hits his kid, and I go, don't you remember how much you hated getting hit? And he said, oh, I never hit him if I'm angry. Of course you're angry. What are you, a Nazi? You have to be angry to hit somebody. Who is sitting around laughing their ass off? Oh, I can't wait to hit my kid now. I'm in such a good mood. Anyway.
How did he respond?
So that's why, you know, he laughed, my brother. But so that's how I grew up. I grew up in that kind of a neighborhood. I didn't really have any role models that did anything I wanted to do.
What did the people around you do, the men in your neighborhood do?
So the cops, firemen, or criminals.
Yeah.
Basically.
I lived in a whole neighborhood full of cops.
And so that was it. And I even took the police test. That's how far it went. My dad, I was
Of course he's a cop. Took the police test. Of course Jimmy Dore's a cop. You just, like, right? I mean,
in college, right? I had gotten in college, and I was home for the weekend or something, and my dad, no, it was in the summer. And my dad woke me and my other two brothers up and goes, get up, you're going to take the police test. And I was like, what? What? He said, you have to go take the police test. And I go, Dad, I'm in college. Can't you wait for me to screw up first? But he made me take it. And anyway, so I didn't become a cop.
How'd you do in the police test?
So this is interesting. They never gave me my score. Yeah. And I don't know exactly why, but they didn't give me, I think it was if you scored too high, they didn't want you, or that's what I tell myself anyway.
You're just too smart to be a Chicago police
I
officer.
was too smart.
Of the 12 kids, how many became cops?
So my oldest brother, Phil, became, so my dad's Phil, he was a cop. My grandpa, Phil, he was a cop. My oldest brother, Phil, he was a cop.
That's awesome.
And, but then he's...
All Phil Doors.
All Phil Doors, yeah. So, and then my oldest brother, he quit being a cop, and then he went into business for himself. But, so yeah, so that. But a lot of my best friends in Chicago were cops, state cops, Chicago
Like, it just makes so much sense. This is awesome.
police cops. And so
What kind of life is that?
So I know cops. They enjoy it. They enjoy it, you know. I didn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want any part of that. My dad he drove a paddy wagon his whole life. And, you know, he didn't really, I don't think he ever pulled his gun. He wasn't the kind of guy who went looking for trouble. You know what I mean? My dad wasn't gung-ho. He was the kind of guy who got that job because he had kids and he needed to have health insurance and stuff like that. He wasn't like, let's go mess some people up. You know, he wasn't on steroids.
Did you know your grandfather?
Yeah, I knew him. He died when I was, I think, in third grade, second or
Jimmy Dore likes cops a lot.
third grade. He was an Irish guy, drinker, and a cop, and he died right.
So, gets beat up as a kid. Cops are known to have a very high rate of beating their families, especially their wives and stuff. Just saying. My dad's a good cop. Okay. Well, he's still beating his family. Anyway.
Right after retired. And so that's what my dad, I think, was afraid he was going to die after he retired. So my dad retired when he was 57. So he worked 2 jobs his whole life. He was a cop and a tuck pointer, which is brickwork, and that's what I did with him. So my dad had his own little company, and we would do brickwork during the day in the spring, summer, and fall. And if you ever want to ruin a relationship, go to do brickwork with your father 8 hours a day.
I can imagine. It's as you're talking, one of 12 kids grew up in the city of.
Well, I mean, in that one, I've done some construction work with my grandpa, and I gotta say, wow, it sucked. But, you know, it's not across the board. I think it depends on the person, of course, who you're working with, but, you know, it's a big stereotype there for bricklayers. Jimmy Dore,
of Chicago, son of a cop, grandson of a cop, brother of a cop. I'm thinking it's almost like it's
all cops. We're all cops.
almost like a cliche. But then I realize I don't know if that world exists anymore.
I don't know what you mean when you say that world.
I'm not sure what I mean either. But if you're telling a story that, seems
MAGA is what Tucker's trying to say.
it's like very American and familiar. But I don't know if it still is.
White, middle class. I don't want black people in my neighborhood, is what Tucker's talking about.
Is your neighborhood the same as it was?
You know what? I go back, it seems the same. It really. So I don't know if in my neighborhood was very interesting because they started to do public housing, right? And so they would do scattered site housing, right? Before in Chicago, the original Mayor Daley's idea was you put all the poor people in one place,
Yes.
put them in a big tower.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the worst idea.
Cabrini Green.
Right, yes, that was the worst idea. Even when you have college kids in huge towers, they wreck the place.
Not a good
you don't
idea.
want to
I
do
agree.
that, right? And so they started to do this thing called scatter.
Okay. Just one example. New York City and their public housing that they put up in like the 50s is still great and everything. I mean, yeah, it's a little rundown because it's received less funding and everything, but significantly good, like it's good housing, cheap. Uh, what is he saying here? What? Insane. Like trashing big buildings but not small buildings? What?
Scattered site housing where they would put public housing in every neighborhood around the city, and it came right in our neighborhood. Of course, they didn't put it in every neighborhood. They put it in our neighborhood, and that created racial tensions. And so I grew up in that, there was a dividing line, and the blacks lived on that side, and the whites lived on this side, and you weren't supposed to go across. But then eventually we did. We organized football games against each other, and we kind of got to know each other. It wasn't like, kumbaya, but it was kind of interesting that we did that. And we could actually have football games and we wouldn't fight each other. And so that kind of informed me growing up. And there was a lot of people who were like, you better not sell your house to a black person, right? That was a big deal. And I was
systematic racism hardcore. Like that's redlining right there. I mean, that is like the very thing of trying to prevent, of keeping all white neighborhoods and everything just like that. Is there going to be any acknowledgement of this as like racism or anything in this conversation, really, or a thing that is currently like a problem and everything and is currently existing still? Like, probably not. We'll see.
was like, people just say that out loud, Not, and my neighbor, so we had 10 kids, and then we adopted two, a Puerto Rican and a Mexican in my house, right? And so I didn't grow up racist at all, right? I mean,
by definition.
Right, but in
I'm not racist. I'm okay.
and it was
Why
just,
did your parents do that? They already had 10 kids.
I don't know. I had a theory. My theory is when I went to school, my mom got lonely. I was in school all day. All her kids were at school all day. She didn't know what to do all day. She likes babies. My mom wanted a baby. Another baby. So she went to Catholic Charities, and she said, I want a baby. And they said, well, we don't have any babies, but we have this kid if you'd like this boy. He's in 3rd grade. And my mom said, sure. And so she brings home, so we have a guy, another boy older than me. I don't need another older brother.
Okay, but like, as weird as this is right now, kind of, I feel like this is some of the most real, yeah. What's the air conditioning next door? I don't know what that means. But, it kind of seems like, though, that, like, this is the only time he's really, like, he sounds real right now, and he kind of sounds like, kind of be happy to be talking about his mom in a way. Like, I don't know, he's actually showing, like, oh, I see. he's actually showing like an emotion other than like anger, and he's actually showing like I don't know, fondness of like looking back at his mom and everything. So I don't know. I feel like he's being more real here than he's actually like a person right now, which is strange. Um, However, what he stopped is a little weird. Seemingly, I don't know, but it's also sad because it's like I mean that show it is yeah it shows that like I mean, he needed like look how like weak the community ties were and everything, because like oh my like the mom didn't have any kind of community without her kids around. Like in any kind of healthy community, like you're gonna know your neighbors and everything and want to be around everybody, you know, and have something to look forward to. And it's pretty sad that that's you know I mean that's what she had to go to because community is yeah it is sad. Um, Community pretty weak. But yeah, I mean that's what we got to do. We got to go door to door. We got to be like, hey, you want to like start a garden together, or like want to like I don't know talk or just anything, you know, see if you can help everybody each other out. Like go to your neighbor, and you know I do more of it too, you know. But like I'm just it's a way that you slowly start to do it because the only way we're truly going to build things is just by constant conversation with our neighbors and everything. So anyway, let's get back to this white nationalist show and fellow whatever Jimmy Dore.
There to beat the hell out of me. And he was a badass, tough guy, too. And he did beat the hell out of me. And
He beat the hell out of me. He's a badass, tough guy. He's a cop. He beat the hell out of me. He's a good cop, though.
so it worked, though. My mom was like, I thought if we got a boy, it would put me in good graces and I would get a baby. She got a baby. She had a baby that Christmas. And
She sounds like a pretty unbelievable person.
she was, in a lot of ways, my mother was. And she got the baby. Then I got to have a little sister, which I really enjoyed. Having a little younger sibling, I really enjoyed having a little sister. And now my little sister has triplets, and so it was great. It was really I was happy.
So you're still close to her?
I was happy. Yeah, I love my sister.
Oh, that's a cool story.
Yeah, it was. I was really happy. And you know, it's funny. I remember when Mom said, "Hey, we're going to get a baby." And I didn't want one because I didn't want competition. And I was like, I don't want a baby. No more. Let's have a vote. And Dad's vote counts for 2. I remember I said that because I knew he didn't want another baby. And but we got him, and I loved her. I love her. It was great.
Yeah, Mom's vote counts for more than all the other votes.
Yeah, so that's how I grew up, and I went to Catholic school. All my other siblings went to public school, but for some reason I went to Catholic high school, right? I was the only one who went to Catholic high school. We all went to Catholic.
Okay, but like, this really sucks though in a way, doesn't it? Like, but this really is achieving what it's meant to achieve. Like, it's meant to really humanize Jimmy Dore and make him look like this. Like, you want to feel bad for him and like, wow, listen to this. Like, he's seeming real right now, and it's like, you know, and I mean, even the word like, he has a human side too and everything, of course, but like, it's just his influence on the world is nowhere near positive whatsoever. It's very, very bad. So we have, no matter what, you hear that and whatever, but you can separate the nice parts of a person from what he's doing on the outside. Because yeah, this is just like Jimmy Dore. This is propaganda for both these guys. It's humanizing Tucker Carlson hardcore with Jimmy Dore's audience, which most of them already like him and everything. But it's doing that along with very much humanizing Jimmy Dore, and this is very relatable for a lot of white people. So it's good. It's good at achieving its goal. So let's do it.
The grammar school.
I can't believe we're only 11 minutes into this thing. This is just loaded with content. This is insane.
And then Catholic high school. I went to St. Lawrence on the southwest side of Chicago.
Is it still there?
Yeah, yeah. And they were a football powerhouse when I got there, so I kind of
Private high school? Private high school.
knew who they were. But and it was an all boys school.
Uh, that face.
Wow.
Yeah, no.
So then you went away for college.
I went to college. So I'm not really a student. You know that, right? So the way I picked my college, I went to Illinois State. Everybody in my neighborhood would go to Northern. And the reason I went to Illinois State was because my best friend Mike was going there.
But don't let Jimmy Dore give Bloomington a bad name, though, which is where Illinois State is. I mean, technically it's a normal Illinois, but it's actually a really nice place. Of course, weed's legal in Illinois, so that's a good addition. But Bloomington's a really nice town, and they have a nice food co-op and everything. And they have another nice little natural foods like locally owned store and everything. So it's a really nice town. And so if anybody don't associate that with Jimmy Dore to bring, because it's not it's cooler. Go Redbirds and all that.
There, and he had a car. And I was like, I want to have a car when I go to So anyway, I only went there for 3 years, and then I dropped out. And I went to Columbia College in Chicago. It was just more of an art school, and I was going to go into advertising. And
of course, he was going to go into advertising and be like some kind of like, how do I grift? Like advertising is grifting hardcore, like one of the highest forms of grifting. So it makes sense for him.
when I got out of college, I just started doing stand-up comedy, and they started paying me right away. And I was like, this is unbelievable. So I never got a job.
I want.
What? Him? What?
To ask about that in 2 seconds, but you said at the outset that you've come on our show and people complain, and you say, well, but CNN and MSNBC won't have me. And I'm thinking as I hear how you grew up, that there's probably not a single person at any level at either one of those networks who grew up close to the way you did.
No. And so whenever
that's a massive cultural divide, what you just described. And I've worked at both those channels, so I just know there's nobody who grew up like that.
So I happened to be on some kind of panel in San Francisco a couple of years ago with all these news types. Some Emmy Award-winning guy was hosting this panel, and I was on it, and I was saying, the reason, like he was asking what my success, what I attributed to, and I attributed to the fact that everybody's pro-war at all the major stations, at every newspaper, they're always for everywhere. And he's like, Jimmy, I don't know what you think we talk about in our editorial meetings, but we don't all talk like that. You think? And I said, I don't know what you guys talk like in your editorial meetings either.
Yes, because Jimmy Dore reads he's read every paper. He knows every journalist. He's like, yep, you wrote this, and that. No, he has no idea what he's talking about.
Why? Because I'll never be invited into one of those editorial meetings, whereas you have been groomed to be.
Because you're insane, man. And look you are literally on Tucker Carlson, who has the biggest news show in freaking the U.S. You'll never be invited into this? What are you talking about?
In that meeting since you were in kindergarten and you don't even know it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because anytime you color outside the lines, that moves you a little farther outside that circle. And I've been coloring outside the lines ever since I was in kindergarten. And so I'm never going to get invited to that editorial meeting. And so now I am on the outside, and I can tell you the truth. I'm a real outsider when it comes to.
Hashtag Jimmy Dore never learned how to color. This best.
Journalism. So I can really call them out, which is why I have such powerful enemies inside journalism.
You do. I've noticed. I want to get to comedy. So 1989, which suddenly is a long time ago.
Yeah.
You decide to go into comedy.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, first of all, I always wanted to be a comedian, but I didn't know I could. Like George Carlin was my hero.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I had the talent to do that. That just seemed otherworldly to me. And then I saw TV shows. They had all these cable stand-up shows, and some of those guys really sucked. And I'm like, well, I'm not as funny as George Carlin, but I'm funnier than that guy, and he's on TV.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So I bet I could do this, right? I bet I could do it. I won't be the best, but I'll be one of them. And so I was right.
That's a fair reading. I like that standard. I often feel the same way. I'm not a genius, but
I'm better than that.
I know I'm smart.
Basically, I know it's cutting out. It's sad stuff, computer sad, all that. But basically, what I was saying is like, he's like, I see that guy. I'm funnier than that guy. Like he's doing that, and it's like, well, that's literally what I'm thinking about you right now. And I think most people, well, if we're watching this stream, if we're hate watching, like we are right now, I think they all can see that. Cause like, Jimmy Dore is not funny. He's not. Like, he's so cringe, man.
Harder than that guy.
Yeah, and so that was that. And I started doing comedy and was back in the boom. So it was 1989. Clubs were opening.
What do we think though? Do we think like Jimmy Dore can be saved? Like, but I mean, okay, I think yeah, he can be saved. Definitely can be possible, you know? But it's like, how do you approach something like that, you know? Because you can't get through to him. Like, like you can't even like physically or like, you can't like get through to him. Like, he wouldn't listen to anybody that's not like, I don't know, Steph maybe, or, hmm, I don't know oh, who would he like cower to and like actually like shut up and listen to? It's a good question. But yeah, I think he definitely could be, but difficult stuff. And so, instead, the only other way, try to deprogram his people, you know, and that can be, like, I don't know if they're on there posting something. I know it's hard sometimes, but you just try not to be like aggressive with his people or whatever. You just got to be nice. Um, and you just got to, I don't know, like if they're like complaining about something or about like, I don't know, healthcare or whatever, and maybe you post like something from like the Black Socialists of America page, um, for something about like they're building dual power and getting healthcare and all that kind of thing. So, you know, if those people are actually serious about like wanting to change things and are actually like they truly care and have empathy for everybody and just are kind of misplacing it because Jimmy Dore and all that, um, like you can help them. And I've done it a few times on Twitter because really that's where his people are. They're all on Twitter. Like they're having that Medicare for all March thing, and they had a town hall today, and for whatever reason, I got the invite, and I'm like, whoa, I got the secret link to the secret Medicare for all town thing that only the people who are like in it are supposed to get and everything. And so I went to it, and there was only like 75 people there. Sometimes as low as like 60. And like most of the people who were supposed to speak and are supposedly going to speak, um, weren't even there. There was like two, three speakers, I think. Like absolute insanity, and they're just now starting to like announce speakers who are going to speak at their marches. Like, and this is happening Saturday, and like it's just so last minute and such an op for Jimmy Dore and the Nico House people, and like it's really sad because there is some people who it's like those 75 people in that are really wasting their energy on this when they could really like those are the people who actually I think do care to a certain extent. Some of them are pretty insane, but I think some of them do care. And it's a matter of redirecting that and like taking away the deep anger and everything. Um and replacing that with a more like focused like how do I get there kind of thing. Like how do I coherently like get this person to think in a different way or like you know it has to all be very subtle and you can't it has to be slow and it can't just be like yelling at them and everything which I mean yeah it is fun and you can go ahead and continue to yell at Jimmy Dore and all those the bigger figures and everything I don't care but because I'm gonna do it like screw Jimmy Dore but anyway.
Everywhere and lines around the block to get in. And I got to work with all my heroes, and it was just amazing. And it was an amazing time. And then 4 years later, everything went south. Comedy clubs started closing. They started cutting your money. So that's when I moved to Los Angeles. I saw the writing on the wall, and I moved to Los Angeles to try to get on television. It worked.
Were you political then?
No, no. I mean, I saw this guy named Bill Hicks. I don't know if you ever.
Oh my God, Bill Hicks is so well known. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Oh my God. Okay, so imagine though, like, okay, so despite all the crap that he went through in his childhood and everything, which is absolutely horrible, um, but just the fact that one, he was white and had like a middle class upbringing, the fact that he was, able to go to college and all that, like, especially back then, like, I mean, those are opportunities that a lot of poor and black people and other minority, other groups are not going to be able to have. And then he just goes to Los Angeles and happens to make it like very lucky, extremely privileged. And then they get to that point, and I don't know, you're to the point now where you're on a white nationalists talk show, and you go to resorts and film the workers because you're pissed off at them. Like, it's pretty sad stuff.
Ever heard of him?
Oh, of course.
Okay, good. So he's the best comedian
It's Alex Jones.
ever.
Yeah, died at 32, I think.
Very young. And pancreatic cancer, I think, is what got him. And so I was pretty cocky. I was like,
There's the crew.
I know what I'm doing in this comedy business. I know how to do this, you know. Every time I get on stage, I'm like, wait till they get a load of me, you know. And then I saw Bill Hicks.
He's so full of himself. Hold on. We gotta screenshot this. Perfect.
And like in the first 5-10 minutes I was watching, I was like, I started to get depressed, you know. And then at 15 minutes in, I started drinking. I was like, I can't. And then after I saw him, I just wanted to quit because I know for the rest of my life, I would forever be chasing second place. I would never come close to
so many professional comedians, you know, guys who work at the Comedy Store like you, talk about Bill Hicks. What was it about Bill Hicks that made him so remarkable?
He can, you know, he can make concepts funny. He had these, you know, he was a philosopher that was able to cut through and see things, and he could be blunt and hilarious and I mean, he had the perfect blend of everything, and he was an amazing performer. He was an amazing mimic. He just had so much talent, and you know, he was an alcoholic for a while. Then he got sober. I saw him when he got sober, so I didn't see when he was drunk and stuff like that. And I only saw him sober when he was on his game, and there's just nobody. I just knew it. I just like for the rest of my life, I'm going to be chasing second place, and it depressed me, and it really did. And then thank God he died like a couple of years later, and I was able to be number one again.
Oh God, that's dark. So you've made a living more or less.
Unbelievably cringe. So special announcement. Let's see here. Plant all you in the chat. Yeah. Okay. So special announcement. Rise. You know Rise. 15% off tomorrow, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Yep. Yep. So we doing things tomorrow. Okay, let's do this.
At comedy for more than 30 years.
Yeah. Yes.
So you know the business really well.
Yeah.
What happened to it?
I know the.
So well, in the early '90s, so it went down in the mid '90s because it just got oversaturated. It was on every television show. They would book stand-up comics on airplanes. That's what they wanted.
Physically?
Physically, you were going to stand up and do. I remember hearing about it. People did it. But of course, it didn't work, and so it was just got oversaturated, and people left, and they would have to give people free tickets to come to comedy clubs, right? And that worked for a little while too, and so then this thing called alternative comedy started in Los Angeles. I think that's where it started. That's where I live.
Oh my God, though. Like, I really just wish he would have just stuck to comedy. Like, why? Why? Oh man, this sucks so bad. Like, he should just. We never had to know who this was. We'd have never had to think about Jimmy Dore. Like, think about how awesome that would be. Right.
And it was a place called Largo. And it was like people like Janine Garofalo and David Cross and those types, right? And it wasn't formulaic comedy. Like you would kind of speak extemporaneously,
Yes.
talk about your day. So it was more real, and people enjoyed that. And the knock on it was it wasn't funny enough, right? Because it wasn't rehearsed and stuff. But now that I think that really opened up what comedy became, and then podcasts is what then gave another boom to comedy, right? So then people were able to find their favorite comedians and connect with them in a real way, and then they could sell tickets and people. So that's, and for me, it's been YouTube has just been an unbelievable boon for me. Like I said, I was telling you before, I was on ABC, NBC. I was on NBC at least 5, 6 times doing stand-up comedy, CBS, ABC, Comedy Central specials. Mine was chosen best
God, he's hitting that desk too much.
of the year by iTunes, thank you. And it still didn't sell a ticket, And then I started doing my Jimmy Dore show on YouTube, and immediately
My Jimmy Dore show.
I started selling out theaters.
No. First, it was TYT Comedy. They gifted this to you. So it wasn't yours. But anyway, go ahead.
So comedians, by definition, are outsiders. They're the people we give license to tell the truth. And all of a sudden, there's been this weird inversion where it's almost like we have court comedians who seem to exist to help the regime do whatever the regime wants to do. So,
The regime, everybody. The regime.
I mean, that's a very weird development, no?
So I like being an outsider. That's what comedians are supposed to do. That's what we're supposed to be.
I like being an outsider as I'm on the white nationalist who has the largest news show in the country, as I'm on his show right now.
But I see now because of Trump, comedians became establishment hacks, and they're conformists. No matter what the issue is, they're pushing the Democratic Party line as if that's some kind of way to stand up against fascism. And they don't realize that the Democratic Party is owned by the same people, and that it's really a one-party rule, and that this is ridiculous.
Okay. No, duh. The two parties are very close. Like, duh. But, like, what comedians you talking about? Like, a select handful that you see on Twitter? Like, come on now. They're, like, Jesus.
So I like the idea.
That's anybody who disagrees with him, he'll just call it, like, a DNC shill or a CIA author shill or whatever. So.
That I'm an outsider, and I'm a real outsider when it
Outsider. Tucker Carlson.
comes to journalism. Because I'm not looking for a job in journalism. I'm not looking to make friends in journalism.
Looking to make friends. Thank you, Tucker, for having me on.
And so consequently, it gives me the freedom to do and say whatever I want. And it turns out when you do that, creates a lot of controversy. When you tell the truth about things, like when you call other journalists out for their McCarthy smears, that causes a big wave of controversy.
So you were on a program called The Young Turks.
Right.
For how long?
Oh, here we go. Oh, he's got to drink some water. He's going to get fired up probably. Let's go.
So I started working with them, I think, somewhere around 2009, maybe 2010.
And
somewhere around
you
there.
went for 10 years-ish.
Ish. I think I left early 2019, maybe. But what happened was after Hillary Clinton got elected, like I couldn't vote for Hillary, right? Because I said I'm not going to vote for warmongering corporatists anymore, and we have to draw a line in the sand, and this is the sand line I'm going to draw. And so I became, there wasn't a good. They didn't want to put that face out there, so they put me behind a paywall, and they took me off their Friday panels, and
No theory of politics other than vote and like parties. Like that's it. That's all he's got. It's like, come on now.
And I kept doing my work, and I thought, well, as soon as the Mueller report comes in, they're going to stop doing this, and we'll get back to being a news show again. Well, they didn't. They just went even crazier. So I left. And I started doing.
He left because his rabid audience like demanded it and like cheered like crazy when he did, because of course they did. So.
Doing this thing called Forced to Vote, which in the middle of a pandemic, the idea.
Always gonna talk about forced to vote. Oh my God.
Was let's have the squad, the progressives that just got elected, that we all just helped get elected, let's have them withhold their vote for Nancy Pelosi as speaker, because the Democrats have a majority, but it's a slight majority, right? Like, and so now they have the power. Now Nancy Pelosi can't get elected without the votes from the squad. So the idea was, well, everybody for a generation has agreed on getting a vote on Medicare for all on the floor, on the left anyway.
Yeah.
And so I said, this is a perfect opportunity. Say, hey, Nancy, you don't have our vote unless you promise to give us a vote for Medicare for all on the floor. Well, that revealed that there is no left in America, because
he literally, it was completely set up to fail, set up on a whim. Just unbelievable.
the squad wouldn't do it. They're not going to oppose Nancy Pelosi, even though
They didn't do exactly what I wanted, so they're all fraud. Hashtag fraud squad.
ran on it. And so what I'm trying to tell people is that when you vote for them, when you vote for somebody inside the Democratic Party, no matter what they say, no matter what they believe, they're going to go along with Nancy Pelosi. And Nancy Pelosi goes along with Goldman Sachs and Raytheon. So when you're voting for someone inside the Democratic Party, you're voting for Goldman Sachs and Raytheon because they are not standing up to those people. So the idea that we have progressives inside the Democratic Party, it's actually more deleterious to the progressive movement to have them there. Why is that, Jimmy? Because it gives people a false impression that there's somebody in government fighting for you, that there's one of the parties that are kind of on your side, and they aren't.
Solution, 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 solution. No?
And the quicker people realize that both parties are not on their side, they only serve the oligarchy. We are, in fact, in an oligarchy. Your democracy was stolen way before Trump. Until that happens, we won't ever have real change.
But what about Ocasio-Cortez? She's on Instagram.
Ocasio-Cortez campaigned.
I hate her. She won't come back on my show anymore. When I started being nasty.
On a floor vote on Medicare for all. And she campaigned on creating what she called a ruckus, meaning you have to stop being polite. This is a quote. You have to stop being polite. We tried being polite, and it got us nowhere. And it wasn't until we started acting out and speaking impolitely that we even created the circumstances for change. That's what she tweeted. So I'm just doing what she said. So I started to put heat on people like AOC and Rashid Tlaib and Ro Khanna and all this.
Tucker's like, yes, I like that. Keep doing that to them.
The Justice Democrats and the squad to force the vote, and they said I was committing violence against them with my words. That's how.
Oh, it was more extreme than that. Oh, wait, hold on. See, I'm sorry. I'm going to be posting this on YouTube when I'm done. So we got to get a couple good screenshots for the thumbnail. So it's another good one. But notice how his attitude and everything has changed. Like, he actually was a real person there for a little bit. Now he's just going to his crazy rehearsed talking points.
Scared they got.
Were you?
That's how scared. You really telling them to do what they ran on? That's violence. That's how afraid they were, and all the things. So they had people write hit pieces on me in the New York Magazine, Newsweek, BuzzFeed. They tried to shut me down and squelch
McCarthyite smearing me.
me. They made me trend on Twitter negatively. But they couldn't.
They made trend on Twitter negative.
Shut me up, and they couldn't stop me, and they don't know what to do with me because, again, all the usual. They have Wikipedia putting smears on me that I can't get rid of. CNN's calling me. It's unbelievable what's going on. Just a comedian.
It's unbelievable what's going on.
A pothead comedian in his garage. What you can do when you want to tell the truth inside journalism and politics, and you can create a ruckus, and I did. And so now everybody sees that those people are fakers and they're corrupt. And the reason why I say they're corrupt is not because they take corporate money and do the bidding of corporations, but they're doing the bidding of their own career, right? Their own self-dealing.
Yeah.
So if I go.
So he's not mad at them that they're taking big money, which they're really not, but he's mad at them because they're doing it for their career. But that's not really true either. I mean, But I mean, they're politicians, so like they do politician-y things. Like I don't understand. What is he trying to say here? He's just mad at them as people, I guess. Which, okay, that makes sense. It's just a personality battle, I guess. All right.
Go along with the establishment, I'm going to get a book deal, I'm going to get speaking fees, and I'm going to be in Congress for at least 5 years, and then I get a pension for the rest of my life. That is corrupt, and that's why they're not pushing back.
I think you get a pension just any time served in Congress. Like probably if it's even for a day, pretty sure. But maybe not. I don't know. Anyway.
Because Nancy Pelosi could come in and crush you. Hey, we'll fund somebody.
Nancy Pelosi that. Nancy Pelosi this.
Okay. Yeah. She sucks. Great. Okay.
In a primary to your left, just like she did to Joe Crowley, AOC, right? So that's what they're all afraid of. They're afraid of the power of the establishment taking away what little power and that they have in Congress. And so they're corrupted. And so I think people are seeing, they said, oh, we can't do forced to vote, Tucker, because we're going to push for $15 minimum wage. And we have to keep our powder dry so we can push for $15 minimum wage, which Joe Biden ran on. So Joe Biden gets elected. They have a majority. They don't push for $15 minimum wage or Medicare for all or get student loan default. No, they do nothing. They're doing nothing.
Well, I mean, have they done as much as anybody like, I guess? Like, no, not as much as I'd like and everything. But to be honest, though, at the very least, it seems like we're going to get an infrastructure bill of a decent size. It seems like it might be 3.5 trillion. And that's pretty important, pretty huge. Like, it's going to be one of the largest investments in infrastructure in a very long time. I think since at least the interstates, but it's better than the interstates. And of course, the child tax credit, where anybody who has a kid 18 and under is going to get, well, has gotten, and I think will continue to get, like a basic income for having a kid and everything. So that's really good. So these are things that it's like, you know, it could be like, you could say that's not enough and everything, but like, to be, and also, why is he blaming this on the people who are like the ones who were really pushing for this? Like, he's not talking about Manchin, he's not talking about Kristen Sinema, he's not talking about any of these other senators like that are really blocking it, or any of these other House members, or Biden or anything. Like, come on. He's blaming it all on like the best ones who are like pushing for all these things and who got the child tax credit in all of this and who are doing the infrastructure deal. Like, it's so dumb. Oh, and also I think they added to Medicare coverage. It didn't used to cover vision and dental, and it now will. So obviously not enough, obviously, but like, come on.
It got revealed through forced to vote, and now the Democratic Party hates my guts.
Have they called you a racist yet?
Yes, they've called me everything.
Oh, have they really?
Well, okay.
Oh, yeah, I interviewed a Boogaloo boy.
Oh, that's right. The Boogaloo Boy thing. Jesus.
Right? And so, which I didn't know anything about the Boogaloo boys.
I don't either.
I didn't know anything about him, but I just thought, I'll bring him on. I don't care who he is, whatever.
I didn't know anything about, I thought they were like the Proud Boys, right?
I thought they were the Proud Boys. It's even worse. Jesus.
So I have this guy on, and he explains to me that the Boogaloo Boys were invented as a response to the Proud Boys. And they thought the Proud Boys were racist, and they were pro-cop and pro-war, and the Boogaloo Boys were anti-cop, anti-Trump, Republican Party.
Oh no. They're not. They are not anti-Trump, and they are not anti-whatever he's about to say. So.
Party, and they were pro-LGBT.
Okay. Well, they're definitely anti-Democratic Party, but that's whatever. They literally just want to like crash the whole thing of the Boogaloo Boys. And actually, Thought Slime did a really good video on the Boogaloo Boys. We'll have to watch that. Hold on. You know what? I can keep playing it. I just got to save it for later to remind me. But yeah, the Boogaloo Boys, they basically just, their whole thing is like, we want everything to crash and burn so we can take control of it. They don't care who they have to ally with temporarily and whatever. they're willing to do it. And so, of course, this guy's going to come on his show and say all kinds of BS. Anyway.
LGBTQ and pro Black Lives Matter. In fact, he said uh, we give security for Black Lives Matter protests. And I was like, get out of here. I don't really believe that. Well, there's video I've been shown since that they actually did. But the problem is the Boogaloo Boys, they're not a centralized organization. So in the Northeast, they're different. In the Midwest, they're different. And so there's different groups.
And they're pro-gun.
And they're very pro-gun. And so I'm sitting there having a conversation with this guy, and we agree on like 5 out of 10 issues. We agree on 5 of them. I'm like, well, why can't we work on those 5 things? You know? And they're like, no, you're a racist. You're platforming a white nationalist. You're a blah, blah. And I told you the next guy so I interviewed him, and the next guy that came on my show was this socialist, he's a guy from the World Socialist website.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to come on and talk about a strike nobody was covering. And he wanted to talk about how bad I was for having that Boogaloo Boy on. And I said, yeah, but I know I used to think those things too, but did you hear what he said? He said the opposite. He goes, I go, what is your message? I go, no, you're supposed to be an organizer, a union organizer. I go, what is your message for a guy like that? A guy who's being crushed by capitalism, a guy who's anti-imperialism, a guy who's anti-political parties. What is your message for a guy like that? He goes, I don't have a message for him. I go, well, that's why nobody ever heard of you. Because that's not how organizing works. I've been in unions all my life. You don't go to the shop floor and go, hey, who here is a Boogaloo Boy? You're out. Who here is a Proud Boy? You're out. Who here is a libertarian? You're out. Who's a gun?
That's not at all how any of this is working, or whatever he's talking about. And like shop floors, not a lot of people do that much anymore. But you know, the thing is, that's a whole different thing. You're not like giving these people like that kind of institutional power, and like a labor union does labor union things. This is a completely different kind of thing. No, you need to organize in different ways. You don't ally with fascist groups like that. You can ally with your neighbors and various things and whatever, but you should not ally with those kind of groups, because like they're ready to take advantage of you whenever they possibly can. There's a reason why they were doing what they're doing. They just want everything to break down so they can build their or live their apocalyptic dream thing or whatever. So this guy, man, Jimmy Dore, unfreaking real.
Nut, you're out. Who's a Trumper? You're out. Okay, who's left? Now we're going to organize against the man together. That's not how it works. Right? When you organize along class lines, you organize along class lines around a central idea, and it's always economic, and you're screwing me. And so
it's always economic. So that's actually why
Also, he's talking about doing this in the context of voting for somebody, I guess. Like union organizing and everything, that's a completely different experience. Comparing that to voting like that, it's completely different. Basically, yeah, he just wants to work with notice how he's so pumped up to work with everybody on the far right. Neo-Nazis, all this, and the whole group too. They all want to work with these people. They all want to work with the Assadists and everything, the guy from the Alternative for Germany and everything. But notice, the people that they hate the most are the Social Democrats, or the somewhat a little more left of Social Democrat, maybe, more like a Marxist, a traditional Marxist or something. I mean, all their hatred is directed towards those kind of people, or the people who are actually getting progressive things somewhat mainstream, I mean, and actually helping to pass these things. Why are those the people you're directing all of your hatred at? Before anything, you should be we got to defeat the far right, because the far right is full completely based on hatred and conspiracy. They hate everybody, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get their world about. So he's not talking about he's talking about the Boogaloo Boys, like, oh, their group is this and that, but they're actually in this and that. But if it was like a group like like a group like Antifa or whatever, he hates them and whatever, rant against them. Tucker Carlson, same thing. Like, these guys are both the same, basically. Jimmy Dore gets some people though Tucker can't, and vice versa. So that's Blake.
First you came to my attention was you were interested in economics and foreign policy. And the conversation on the left revolves almost exclusively around identity, which is, in other words, me. Narcissism is about me.
Yeah.
But you kept talking about economics. That used to be the central conversation on the left, or in America, actually.
Yeah.
Why no more?
Because the establishment has learned how to co-opt identity politics.
We used to be like, we don't need to talk about the blacks. We don't need to talk about women getting, like, sexually harassed and everything at work. We used to not talk about that kind of stuff. We used to just focus on on the issues, real issues, men issues.
To put the brakes on economic progress and justice. So the joke I do, so if you want to help, I would say if you want to help black people, nothing would help them more than free college, student loan relief, and Medicare for all, and a living wage. You want to help them? That would be the way to help them. But Joe Biden comes in, does none of those things, but he makes Juneteenth a holiday. So do you understand what I'm talking about?
Oh, I do understand.
So it's all signals, but there's no substance. We're signaling that we want to help the minority community, but we're not actually helping them. So that's what identity politics is. It's a big diversion. And the joke I say, if it was 1860, the Democrats would be bragging about their first transgendered slave owner.
So you say stuff like that, I mean, they must really hate you for saying
Yeah, but that's true. They're bragging about.
What the hell?
So it's all signals, but there's no substance. We're signaling that we want to help the minority community, but we're not actually helping them. So that's what identity politics is. It's a big diversion. And the joke I say, if it was 1860, the Democrats would be bragging about their first transgendered slave owner.
First, it doesn't seem like the right term to use. I think that's pretty screwed up. And all of that is absolutely disgusting. Jesus Christ.
So you say stuff like that, I mean, they must really hate you for saying
Yeah.
You get Tucker Carlson to laugh like that, yeah, you disgusting.
But that's true. They're bragging about that they have transgendered people as superdelegates and things. I mean, it's like, what is going on? This is not. There was a thing on Twitter where this liberal news person, I don't know who it was.
He's literally going on a rant right now about how he hates seeing trans people and everything. What the hell? Come on now. Anybody who's watching this who, pretends to be a socialist or on the left, see, this is where you get with, just focusing on class issues and everything. If you don't think about anything else, you just look at this is what you can turn into. You get Knots bull crap going on like this, where all those things are just meaningless to you and whatever, and you don't care, and you begin to have a hatred of those kinds of people too. Or, not really beginning, but it's just kind of ingrained, so it's just easier for certain people to think that way. So, wow. Jimmy Dore.
She did this, it was a woman, and she said all the top 10 CEOs making all this money, right? It was gross amount of money that they're making. And I thought the point was going to be about income disparity. And her point was, where are the women? She was like, she wanted women to be rapacious oligarchs too. That was the problem.
I mean, okay, that sucks. That's capitalism. That's hierarchy. That's bad. That is a system that is completely constructed by rich white people. So it should be torn, basically rebuilt from within, deconstructed by rebuilding within. But and the way he's talking about it, he's just saying, I'm tired of hearing about women. I'm tired of hearing about the gays. I'm tired of hearing about the blacks. I just want to see white people and just be done with all this. I grew up in a racially segregated neighborhood.
That
We got along sometimes.
there weren't enough women doing that. You know, it's and now women are the heads. They're the heads of weapons companies, right? It's awesome. Yeah, I did a whole thing on
Yeah, it sucks.
like all the big weapons companies manufacture. Now they have female CEOs.
Solutions, Jimmy, solutions. What are they? I don't know. Huh. Nothing ever offered. Just problems and hatred sown and causing people to worry and fear.
Isn't that crazy?
So that brings us to foreign policy, where you really have stepped outside the lines. In fact, I think you live outside the lines. I think you set up a permanent.
These guys get along so well. I mean, don't they though? I mean, they get along so well. It's just incredible.
Permanent encampment outside the lines. So to kind of give our audience some sense of what those lines are, we just have a quick montage of 4 or 5 familiar TV people responding to the latest bombing campaign in Syria, which was this spring in March.
Oh no, we're doing Syria now? Oh no. Oh, we're gonna do Syria.
And here's how they greeted it.
Oh my God, okay.
I do think it was important for the Biden administration to send a message, a very clear message early on, that these attacks on our forces will not be tolerated.
We're going to take a proportionate response, that we're going to respond. And we hit back at them. And I think it's just sort of resetting expectations that if you hit at us, we're going to punch back.
No one likes to talk about the fact that we have to protect ourselves, but that's the national security reality. And I think the Biden administration understands it and they're acting accordingly.
I think that that President Biden is.
I mean, yeah, this sucks, but like every president has done this, and Tucker wasn't on here saying anything about Trump or whatever doing this kind of stuff too. So this is literally just it's just very one-sided. But also, like they were arming all sides of this, but like I would support, well, giving, like I've said on, I don't know, I think my earlier stream, maybe before, but I mean, definitely what we need to do is take in as many refugees, as many people who want to come over from, well, really anywhere, but like especially right now from Afghanistan, because it's turning into, I mean, the Taliban is completely taking over, and they're killing anybody who is affiliated with the U.S. or whatever. So anybody who wants to come over from there, but anybody from Syria, especially like, I mean, if the Kurds want to, in northeast Syria in Rojava, but also, I mean, as much aid as possible really should be given to Rojava and everything. I mean, Rojava should be protected like as much as possible, but that's just not going to happen. The U.S. has allowed Turkey to basically just go in and genocide them, basically, and it's quite terrible.
Is pursuing a tough but smart approach.
Is it a mistake to target bases in Syria right now?
Actually, it was pretty smart. This is counterterrorism. So I don't think the Biden administration needed new permission or authorization from the Congress.
My favorite is Jeremy Bash saying we need to protect ourselves. Really?
Okay. What's the solution, though?
What are our interests in Syria exactly? Do you know?
Oh boy, he's charging up. He's ready for this. Oh, he's so pumped. He's like, oh, Syria. Oh my God, this is one of my 2 things I talk about. Here we go.
I love that. It's all new ways to keep the war machine going. They have to invent they have to invent monsters and boogeymen. And my favorite thing was not my favorite thing, but one of the best examples of this was how they got us crazy about ISIS. Chris Matthews would show videos of the beheadings, right? And it was like, oh my God, the president has to do something about, they have kitchen knives, that we're supposed to be afraid of them. They have kitchen knives. And
okay, so the thing is, though, ISIS really does suck. And especially what they're doing in Afghanistan right now, they really do suck. I mean, they behead people for literally nothing. Yeah, they do suck. If you're watching my earlier stream, and if you want to go back and watch it, or you can just go to YouTube on the Unicorn Riot channel. But we covered a thing about what it is like, what it was like for, and currently is, for Kurdish fighters and volunteers who are fighting ISIS in northern Syria. And they are absolutely brutal. So to downplay them is just like just guys with kitchen knives is pretty dumb.
And they're going to cut your head off with a kitchen knife. And I would always say, yeah, why don't we blow their heads off with a nice Christian bomb? What do you think? It's just nuts, right? So that's how they keep it going, right? It's like, and why are we in Syria? You tell me why we're in Syria. A lot of people have it certainly isn't because we want to help the people of Syria. That's what people say. Oh, we have to bomb.
Because Assad is a monster. Yeah. And we're
Here we go. Assad.
Anti-monster. And wherever monsters exist, we slay them. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, I felt that way ever since I found out Assad developed a worldwide torture program and centered it in Guantanamo Bay. And then, you know, invade.
But see, but the thing is, though, he's still a dictator. Like, doesn't mean you go in and actively take him out and everything. But it does mean that he is a dictator and he is to be opposed. So, and also, don't you think Assad would do the same things and actually worse, if not given the chance? Like, if Assad had the power, if Assad was the U.S. president, you really don't think he would try to do these things, but like what he's doing in his own country on a much larger level? Of course. Like, come on.
Invaded Iraq and killed millions of people, did the same thing in Libya. I mean, that Assad is a maniac. Oh, wait, that wasn't him.
Look at, wait, hold on.
I felt that way ever since I found out Assad developed a worldwide torture program and centered it in Guantanamo Bay. And then, you know, invaded Iraq and killed millions of people, did the same thing in Libya. I mean, that Assad is a maniac. Oh, wait, that wasn't him. Who was that?
Yeah, look at how smug. Jesus.
So the last administration had a couple of bombing campaigns against Syria, and the very first one was justified by a chemical weapons attack within the country. Mm-hmm. We were told, like immediately, even before inspectors reached the site, mm-hmm. that this was a chemical attack by the Assad government against innocents. And that was repeated universally by everybody. Again, before they even reached the site to verify it had happened. Mm-hmm. You were one of the only people in the entire media landscape who doubted that story. And you did it in public. What happened next?
You know, we've been down this so many times. We'll do it again if we have to, later stream, but this is sick and wrong.
Well, when I doubted it, I was on a panel on the Young Turks with 3 people, and they were all pro-war, and they were all trying to figure out ways. Well, Jimmy, what circumstances, what would it take for you to be for bombing Syria? What if this, what if that? I'm just like, well, what if it helps me? I'm like, I don't know what you think, but Barack Obama doesn't care about the people in Syria. The reason why he bombed Syria isn't because he's upset that somebody...
Solutions, Jimmy, solutions.
...got killed with a chemical weapon. 50 people, by the way, or whatever it was, that got...
50 people or whatever it was. I'm an expert. I'm Jimmy Dore. Like, what the hell?
Kill it. I go, this is obviously to get us to want to bomb them and to manufacture consent for war. And they would all go, no, it's this. And
all right. Honestly, I think I've tweeted about it and everything, but like, we got to get Jimmy Dore banned. He needs to go. Like, I'm calling for a total and complete shutdown of the Jimmy Dore show until we can figure out what the hell is going on in his brain. We got to fix him. I think he has some serious trauma from childhood and everything. And we got to shut him down. So we got to reform him because he's just getting worse. So anyway.
And I'm like, well, if we're going to bomb to help people, why don't we bomb North Korea? Why aren't we bombing Russia? Why don't we bomb? And they're like, well, we can't do that because they could hit us back. And I'm like, so you want to bomb countries that they don't have the ability to bomb us back and kill innocent people to help innocent people? And like, I'm just throwing logic at them and they didn't, like, I don't know.
All imperialism is bad. It's bad. It's bad. Everything is bad. Yeah. What's your solution, Jimmy?
I go, how many innocent people are we supposed to kill in Syria? Oh, I don't have a number. That was actual.
How many has Assad killed? A lot of innocent people because he doesn't care. Because him and his dad are dictators and they want power. They don't care.
And so that's what happened. And and it just kept going. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And that was right after we did Libya, right? So, I mean, how you see Iraq, you see Libya, and by the way, they're still misreporting Libya. You know, they don't care. I mean, the mainstream news.
Look at Tucker smiling over there. He loves us so much. He knows what's happening.
And
can you summarize what happened in Libya?
Oh, he wants this bad because it's going to be all about
Hillary Clinton, Benghazi, Hillary, and all this.
Oh, he wants this. His audience is going to love this. They know exactly what they're doing here.
So in Libya, we all got the NATO powers like France, Britain, United States. They overthrew Gaddafi, and they instituted a failed state with open slave markets that is run by terrorists. And then they use a lot of the weapons from there. They funneled those into Syria, and a lot of those fighters they helped go. Yeah. So
there was a reason there were so many CIA contractors in Benghazi.
Yeah.
CIA.
Yeah, I'm saying.
They were moving weapons into Syria. Now, these are conflicts that the average American doesn't know exist, right?
Right. So there's timber sycamore. People don't even know about that, right? So you could look it up.
Oh, my God. This is one of his things.
It was the CIA would give weapons and money to terrorists to go try to overthrow Assad. And they've been trying to overthrow Assad since at least 2006.
And our dear leader remains standing. He is our hero. Oh my God, Assad. What a... come on now.
I have an interview with Assad and Christina Amanpour, and she says, you know, a lot of people are talking about regime change. This is in 2006, and they try to make it look like the regime change started with the Arab Spring, which it didn't. That's not how this started. This started as the CIA did this, right? So...
Nobody could ever hate Assad. It must have been the CIA who started the whole civil war with all those different factions.
And people don't realize that. That's what the CIA does. And no one
because everybody
will say why they...
Everybody in the country votes for Assad, and everybody loves Assad. That's just how, you know, nowhere else in the world. It doesn't make any sense, I guess. But here, it makes sense. It just happens in Syria. They just love Assad. Come on now, Jimmy.
Really want to go into Syria, but they wanted to overthrow Syria for a long time. Some people speculate it's because they want to put a pipeline through Syria, and I've seen that, and I wouldn't doubt it, that's why they want to do it. A lot of people say because of Israel's interest in there.
Ooh, Israel. Ooh, yes, Tucker's audience is going to love this. Yeah.
So I'm sure it has to do with Saudi Arabia and Israel.
So it would, I mean, I have no idea, but it would be worth knowing why. I mean, Americans have died there, by the way. Lots of Syrians have died. We prolonged the agony of that country's civil war, obviously. So you'd think like the role of journalists is to find out. Maybe not take a position even, but just like bring the facts.
Actually, though, the Kurds were the best at fighting ISIS, and honestly, it was because of the U.S. arms. But I'm just saying, like, it wasn't just because, like, Assad's so powerful or whatever. Like, I don't know, whatever. Okay.
And yet, the response has been like this. This is Brian Williams, who I believe is smart enough to know better, responding to a Syrian missile strike. Watch.
Oh, yeah, well, this sucks. Yeah, this is stupid.
We see these beautiful pictures at night from the decks of these two U.S. Navy vessels in the eastern Mediterranean. I am tempted to quote the great Leonard Cohen, I'm guided by the beauty of our weapons. And they are beautiful pictures of fearsome armaments making what is for them a brief flight over to this airfield. What did they hit?
Now, I'm just sad that Sigmund Freud is gone because the psychosexual analysis of that would be super interesting.
They're perfect for each other, both these guys. They really are.
Interesting. Yeah. You look at these beautiful missiles take. I mean, like, I don't even know what to make of that. What do you make of that?
I mean that they just grow up with this reverence for war. It's like the only knowledge they get is from World War II movies. You know, it's like, have you not watched Private Ryan? If you're going to do that, watch Private Ryan. You're going to understand what war is really like, and then you wouldn't be cheering it on because it's horrible, right? And so, but they do. They cheer it on, and they said on CNN that's when.
Okay, mainstream media sucks. Big news. Nobody ever heard of that before.
He became president because when he bombed, right? So Americans love bombing other countries. I don't know. I mean, why do you think how do you think Brian Williams got that job? He didn't get that job because he was skeptical of when we bombed people. He got that job because he cheers it on.
It just feels like such a perversion of his job. I mean, if you're a spokesman for General Dynamics, I mean, that seems like a legitimate position. You know what I mean? Our missiles work. Got it. But if you're a news anchor,
Tom Brokaw got an award from a military institution, right? I forget now. I'm blanking on the name of the thing, but like, I don't know, some war college or something. They gave him the biggest award you could give a guy. They gave it to a journalist. Are you kidding me? They should hate him. He's supposed to be exposing all the lies and the wars and the things. And of course, he does the greatest generation. How about the generation that screwed us? How about that? The generation that took it all for themselves and set up a system that leaves 80% of the workers living paycheck to paycheck. 50% of Americans can't afford a $400 emergency. How about that? That generation. Tell me about that generation. So anyway, that's how bad. Yeah, you're right. But Tucker, how did people get to be an NBC? How do you get to be on television I would never be.
Well, Tucker would know because Tucker has been like on all the news networks, I think at least since 2001. So, you know, we'll watch some Tucker crap later, actually. Not his show, but, oh man, what is it? It's, damn. Anyway, we'll figure it out.
As soon as I said something, they would fire me. As soon as I told the truth about Syria, as soon as I told the truth about whatever, I would get fired, right?
I don't know. It's just so interesting. So I have strong feelings on foreign policy, which are basically out of step with the party that I generally vote for, which is the Republican Party. And the leadership doesn't, they're way on the other side. So I kind of assumed that my views were very unpopular among our audience. I'm just being as honest.
I'm a white nationalist. Turns out there's a lot of them.
As I can be. So I see you and I think, well, I'm sure, we don't agree on a lot, but I absolutely agree with what you just said, and I really admired your bravery for saying it. So I thought, let's have Jimmy Dore on. So we have you.
You know who I like? I like Jimmy Dore.
On, and I was stunned by the reaction. So our producers keep a pretty, it's sophisticated. Like we know who's watching and what they like and what they don't. You can tell in the numbers. Our audience really liked it when you came on. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked by that. So it does make me think. And these are people who I bet have never voted for a single person you voted for. So it does make me think that some of these ideas are like a lot more popular than you would know from watching conventional media outlets.
Right. You would never know. You would never know there was a big faction of anti-war people in the country watching the mainstream news media.
Ever. You would never know that.
You wouldn't even know there was an Occupy Wall Street movement happening for at least
Yeah, but there's a big difference, though. You can be anti-war and also care about the people who are dying in those war zones and everything, and want to still, offer them reparations and all that kind of stuff. And then there's the side of anti-war that people like Tucker and Jimmy and everything are, where they're just like, fuck them. Who cares? Leave them alone. Like, I just build a wall. Build a wall around this country or whatever, and keep everybody else out. We just don't want anything to do with anybody else. It's anti-human and it's disgusting.
The first 2 weeks of it happening, those people had to drive through it on their way. I remember I was watching MSNBC and they were looking out their window going, what do they want anyway? I don't know. Why don't you walk the 15 feet and ask them? They're not going to do that, Aaron Burnett. But
did you ever see the study, and I don't know the name of the genius who did it, but he just went to a nexus and found that after 2012, when Occupy Wall Street emerged, the rate of the use of the word racist in the New York Times, USA Today, and the Washington Post went up by like 600%.
Really?
Yes.
I know that. Okay.
Yes. It's not proof, but it suggests what's really going on, which is all this, a lot, not all. There's racism, it's worth talking about. But the focus on unsolvable race problems was designed to keep you from talking about solvable economic problems and the distribution of wealth in the country.
Well, I think I don't know if that's 100% true, but it's certainly partly true.
Exactly. I don't think it's 100% true.
Right. So, but the response to Trump wasn't, how can we make people's lives better so they don't vote for a guy like that again? Right. The response was, we've got to let everybody know that he's only there because of racism and everything else is fine. And that's crazy. I mean, I would be at these Hollywood parties right after Trump was elected, and I would be like, it's because of economic pain in the country. They're like, no, this is racism. This is 100%. And I'm like, come on. Trump didn't invent racism. 3 out of the last 4 RNC chairpersons had to apologize for the Southern strategy. They've been doing this forever.
Okay. You don't have to invent racism to be like hardcore racism and play off of racism. But go off, yes.
What are you talking about? Ever since the parties realigned after civil rights, what are you guys talking about? They've been doing this. This isn't new. The thing that is new is that we're now voting for a TV show, game show host con man, because we're so desperate. That's what's new. And they didn't want to hear, and that's when they did Russiagate. So it's got to be racism and Russiagate. It can't be economic pain.
Okay, but what if it's a lot of these different things? But see, the thing is, though, it wasn't just poor people voting for Trump and everything. Like, it was like, it's mainly rich people. His base is mainly rich people, and not to mention crappy candidates going up against him. So, anyway.
It can't be the fact that people can't pay their medical bills. Right. It can't be that GoFundMe is our health insurance. It can't be that in the richest.
But again, what are your solutions, guy?
Country the face of the earth has ever seen. And I ask people, what do you call an economic system that takes the richest country the earth has ever seen and renders half of its population poor or low income? You call that a failed system. And people need to recognize that we're living in a failed system. We've got the wealth. They just gave $5 trillion, the largest upward transfer of wealth in human history, and they got every progressive to vote for it, including Bernie Sanders. We are living in a failed system. No matter who you elect, it's not going to make a difference. So the quicker people realize that our political system is 100% corrupt, rapacious oligarchy, and that we have to have direct action and get in the street, which is what always gets things done, right? When we got civil rights, Martin Luther King, you got to get in the streets and you got to make things happen. If we're going to have health care, we're going to have education, we're going to have a living wage, we're going to have to make them give it to us. Power gives you nothing unless you have a demand. I don't know how
that's the opposite of what I see, though. I mean, it's pretty clear in every society I've ever read about, change happens when the professional class decides to bring change. Because actually, people who are living paycheck.
No. That is a stupid view of things. No. Change happens day-to-day lives for everyday people. But,
Paycheck to paycheck don't have enough power to affect change. And honestly, they don't, okay? So that would mean college students, people who have an actual shot of getting a job at McKinsey. They're the ones you need on board if you want change, because they will be running the country. I've never even met one who's interested in any economic question whatsoever.
So have
you noticed this?
Yes, I noticed this. They're all a bunch of Pete Buttigieg's, right?
Assuming we're pronouncing that correctly.
So yeah, they're all just different shades of the establishment. That's all they are. But I thought we had to, like FDR, right? So FDR, he didn't bring socialism to America. They say he saved capital.
He put Japanese people in internment camps and everything, but
capitalism. And the way he did it was he told his rich friends, if we don't give them some of our money, they're going to take all of our money, because he just saw the revolutions that had happened in the world. And so he said
his cousin Teddy Roosevelt, same thing.
Right? And so he figured that out. You got to give people, so he gave them Social Security, and you want a job, I'll give you a job. Why doesn't the government do that? Why does the government, instead of giving you welfare or whatever, say, hey, if you want a job, we'll give you a job. Go give it. And so there's no reason that you don't have a job, because we're going to give you.
Well, because if you do something like that, where you are like, everybody who wants a job has a job, and basically it compels people to work, and it basically just kind of keeps the same thing we got going on now. People will feel pressure to do that and not actually do what they want to do and everything. you'll still keep a lot of the same anxieties and everything. Like it'll be like a social stigma, probably even worse than what it is now to not have a job. Like dumb.
You a job. We could do that. We have the money.
This is like a nuts bull idea.
Again, over and over, we prove that we have the money. You know, it would take $20 billion to end homelessness. You know, they increased the military budget by $20 billion already under Joe Biden. They could have did it. They could have ended homelessness.
Well, so wait a minute. Let's go back. That's such an interesting point. So the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, was the largest mobilization ever in American history during peacetime. Douglas MacArthur actually ran it at first.
Right, and apparently that's what they're trying to do something like a modern CCC right now, in the infrastructure bill. But they oppose this, Jimmy Dore and Tucker Carlson and everything. So why are they talking glowingly on it when they oppose a new form of it?
And they built the infrastructure of our national parks, and they built, they're everywhere. To this day, it was 90 years ago. We did a wonderful job.
Yes.
Every stone barbecue at a pullout in a national park was built by those guys, and they were young men who didn't have jobs. They got jobs. No one even and I think it was an amazing thing that they.
But they weren't compelled to do that. But whatever. Well, I mean, capitalism and everything. You're compelled in a way to, of course, get a job. But I'm not saying it's different than exactly what they're talking about.
It was useful. And it gave dignity to the people who did it.
Yes.
And it gave them money.
Yes, and it stimulates the economy. Demand side economics, not supply side.
So now you've had a lot of hurting people after the COVID shutdowns. I mean, indisputably, a lot of people with no money, they couldn't work. Instead, we just write them checks, which is better than letting people starve, of course. But why didn't anybody say, let's give people skills, dignity, jobs, rather than handouts to which...
Who was president then? Okay.
They become...
insane. And they're opposing this. Basically, the infrastructure package addresses, basically all the problems that he's talking about right now. Obviously not sufficiently enough, but better than, better than expected, I would say. So anyway, here it goes.
Dependent.
I don't know, maybe because I don't know, I'm speculating, but maybe they don't have jobs programs because that would raise the wages of the regular workers and put economic pressure on private employers, right? Now they have to compete with these people who actually have an alternative. So right now they're getting unemployment, and a lot of employers are saying we can't get people to come work. Yeah, because you pay shit and you offer no benefits.
Well, that's true.
And these people have a better life on unemployment. What does that tell you about our system, right? So... yeah, that's why they don't want to have that. I mean, that's my speculation, why we don't have a good paying jobs program.
That's my speculation.
In the United States. Why don't we?
It's certainly better than sapping the life out of people. But I mean, you don't want to be idle. Every time I've been fired and I don't have a mission or a purpose, it really degrades how you feel about yourself. I don't know if you've ever been out of work.
They're Nazis. Well, Jimmy's a Nazi. Tucker's a Nazi. God. Amazing.
But it's not good for you at all. At least for a man, it's not good for you at all. Well, at all.
At least for a man? What? What kind of crap, what kind of sexism is that? That's interesting. What, women don't feel the same way or whatever when they lose a job? That's a little weird. A little messed up. Jimmy's not going to say anything about that. We're like, oh, what do you mean by that? No, Jimmy don't care. Anyway.
Not only that, but the stress of poverty, they have done studies that shows that the stress of poverty actually reduces your IQ, right? Because you're stressed.
Right.
And so people are like, why do poor people make poor choices with their money? And it's like, well, one of the reasons is because they're stressed, because they don't have money and they don't know how to, and so they make bad decisions. And they've proven this through. And so we need to take the stress away from those people. We need to give people, health care, a living wage, and then they can start living up to their potential, and they won't have that kind of stress. And we could do it so easily. We could get rid of student loan debt. They just gave $1 trillion tax cut under Trump. That would have got rid of the student loan. I mean, they could do these things, but they just don't want to, because those people who are in the positions of power, they came from McKinsey, and they have no association with people like me. They have no connection. They have no idea what life is really like. You know, they've done those studies. The richer you get, the less you have the ability to see the emotions in other people's face. Do you ever see those studies?
No.
Yeah. So if you're, a millionaire for a bunch of years, you get less and less able to tell people's cues of emotions through their face. It's amazing that.
I mean, okay, but you're talking to Tucker Carlson.
It happens that way. I hope that happens to me
How
sometime.
much of your politics derived from Catholic social teaching that you learned in high school?
He just said, I hope that happens to me someday. Like, man, I want to be that rich that I don't know how to read people's emotions. Man, that's fucked.
I don't know. I just always had a sense of, that there was economic injustice. I just always saw it. And I always, I always thought that I saw the effects of racism in Chicago, where I lived, right? I saw how they treated them, how they tried to cattle them, house them, and get them away from everybody. And I saw the way the police treated minority blacks. And
my dad was a good cop, though. He beat his family, but he's a good cop.
So I just always had an inner sense of it. And my parents were the opposite of that kind of. So in my neighborhood, people would use the N-word all the time and stuff like that. And my parents weren't like that. They were the opposite. My parents, you couldn't do any of that in the house and all that. And so they were really good people. So I had that. And I just had a sense of, I saw my dad had to work 2 jobs his whole life.
Well, at least there's that. It's a very low bar to cross, It really is. Like, the I didn't say the N-word at least bar is that's a pretty low bar. But good for you, Jimmy.
Life, and of course my mom worked her head off, and I just saw everybody in my neighborhood work their head off, and I saw the rich people not working at all, and so I just always had this sense of it like that. So I don't know if it comes from Catholicism. I kind of rebelled against Catholicism, but yeah, so I wouldn't really chalk it up to Catholicism.
Last thing I want to ask you about is your job, and you've said there's no chance that you could get a gig on NBC. You can't even get on MSNBC.
No.
Right. And
they're getting ready to kick me off YouTube.
So that's my question. You work on, you do live shows.
It's on Tucker Carlson right now.
Yes.
And always have. But, you make your living in part, at least, on YouTube. What's that like?
It's scary because right now the head of YouTube is not on our side. Like, it's not YouTube. She wants you to go to corporate news. So the head of YouTube did an interview where she bragged about that. They call independent news borderline content. That's what they call it. And she bragged that they had suppressed us 80%. So I used to get 16 to 18 million views a month, and now I'm getting 6 to 8 million views a month.
Or maybe, Jimmy, you plateaued. You reached your limit. Like, there's just not any more people who are gonna be like watching you and take you seriously. That's what it is, really. That's really what it is, Jimmy.
So they're suppressing us, right? And even then, we're still breaking through. So, and it's scary because once they want to take you down, they can go get a video from 5 years ago and say this violated our standards and our new standards, and so we're going to take your channel.
Pull all the Jimmy Dore stuff down. Pull the whole channel down. YouTube.com/TYT comedy.
They're doing that left and right. And again, it's about, there's certain sensitive topics, right? You can't talk about foreign war. You can't tell the truth about the military. You can't talk about vaccines. That's for sure.
Oh, no. This is the anti-vax part.
They've been taking people down left and right. So Matt Taibbi even wrote an article about how come we don't have free speech around healthcare? And what is this? So
why is that? Why do you think you can't talk? And what would?
So, just a couple live streams ago, Jimmy Dore, I clipped it at one point, but Jimmy Dore, well, in his super chats, when Steph was reading them out, there was one that was leading them, like, literally, like, leading people to an insane anti-vax site. Um, and she just kind of like read it out and promoted it. I don't think she had any idea what the hell it was. But aside from that, they consistently have been promoting anti-vax stuff. Jimmy has tracked his whole saga of supposedly having side effects and everything and saying nobody wants to hear him. But it's like, no, you can. You can go to the Department of Human Services website and whatever. Like when you get your vaccine, they literally give you a thing that says how to report your side effects. Like we want to know and everything. It's so freaking insane. So he's just playing into the whole Tucker Carlson stuff too. And like now he's gonna go on a vaccine rant. Two people who are currently vaccinated, who both got the vaccine, are gonna go on a rant and discourage more people from getting the vaccine.
What would you say about vaccines, if you could? Because you can here.
Okay.
Charging up again. He's charging up again.
Okay, well, I would just tell what.
Little low energy now, though. Little less energy, but let's see. Maybe he'll get more.
What happened to me? I would talk about ivermectin.
Well, what happened to you?
That does not work.
So on April 17th, I got my second shot, Moderna shot, and I never got better.
Had you had COVID?
Okay, prove it. I mean, like honestly, like how do you know it was that? And like also, like yeah, there's side effects to that too. And like again, how do we know? Like how do you know it's from that? Like how is this provable? Like unless you prove this, like I mean, come on. Like there's no way to like you're just like all you're doing by saying something like this is taking people who are already fearful of it and making them more fearful and verifying what they're saying. Like you're not doing anything beneficial right now.
Before?
No, I never had COVID. I had an underlying condition, so my doctor recommended I get it. It's experimental vaccine, which I was wary of.
It's really not though. I mean, it just go after it's injected and everything. Like it does what it's supposed to do and then it just like dissipates. Like the RNA, the mRNA just kind of dissipates and it's gone. So like, you know,
And I didn't want to get it because I've exposed Fauci as being a liar on my show, pathological.
and you know, the thing is, over 90% of people who go to the hospital with coronavirus symptoms now are unvaccinated, and a lot of them will beg, like the nurses are saying and all that, before they have to put like a tube down their throat, like, oh, could I please have the vaccine now? And they're like, and it's sad because ultimately it's not the individual people's fault. It's not their fault that they ended up like that, you know? I mean, it's from the misinformation and everything that they've been told by people who are vaccinated. But um so they like beg for the vaccine and they're like, sorry, it's too late. And yeah, I mean, even with the Delta variant being worse and like it multiplies, I think 1,000 times faster, like in your body. But as long as you're vaccinated, you'll be okay. You're not going to die. You could still potentially, like, if you're older, could go to the hospital. Might need some oxygen and whatever with the Delta variant. But if you're unvaccinated, oh yeah, I mean, it sucks. And it's like you know that that can happen to you, especially if you're old and everything. Like you know that that can happen to you, especially with these new strains. And also, the longer that you don't that there is populations of people who aren't vaccinated, it allows the virus to continually mutate into worse and worse things that will make vaccines and people who are vaccinated, it'll make it less effective because of those mutated strains are stronger. So it's a public health hazard to do that. It would be the same thing with any kind of virus. It would be the same thing with like measles or um, I don't know, polio. Name your whatever, you know.
logically. And so I was not into it. And of course, I'm skeptical of big pharma, like we should be.
Yeah.
And but I went to my doctor, and my doctor's like, no, you have this underlying condition, so you better get it. And so I followed my doctor's advice, and I got it, and I never got better.
What does that mean? You never got better?
So I have flu-like symptoms, joint pain. On the 5th week, my neck got stiff. And my producer of my show had the exact same thing at the 5th week. And I'm like, well, this obviously... So I look it up, I Google it. Oh, this is a thing. And that it happened.
Okay, so I gotta be honest, this is a really hot take, but he smokes a lot of weed, okay? I smoke a lot of weed. And sometimes I feel like we can do those kind of things to a certain extent. Like after, you know, if you get really, really high or whatever, you know. So I don't know personally, because I've had like pain like that, not from like, and I'm talking prior to vaccine and still, and I think it's weed related to a certain extent. But anyway, that's my hot take. So either way, he's full of crap.
Happens on the side that you got the shot. I got my shot on my right side, my stiff. He got his on the left. And that's when I tweeted about it. And I go, hey, it's been 5 weeks, and I'm still experiencing all these things. And then a doctor contacted me who's been working with people like me. And he said, yeah, there's thousands of people like you. We have this thing. We think it's the spike protein, blah, blah, blah. And he said, call your doctor, go to your doctor on Monday, have your doctor call me, and we'll have a consultation. Because my doctor had to prescribe for me. And so my doctor, when I sit down and I start telling my doctor about my problem, my doctor looks at me and says, I'm treating 5 people just like you. One of them is a neurologist, and one of them is a nurse, and they're both afraid to talk about it because they're afraid to be stigmatized. That's how bad it is. That's how politicized medicine has gotten because of the Democrats and Trump, is that doctors and nurses are afraid to talk about the symptoms they got from an experimental vaccine. And so when I went on Twitter and I talked about this, people were calling me a faker and they were calling me anti-vax. I'm like, no, I got the vax.
No, you are. I mean, yeah, you got it, but you are literally pushing these right now. The influence you are having on people right now is making them even more fearful at a time when they most need to get it. Because we really don't want to go through lockdowns and stuff again. Like, that would kind of, like, that'd be annoying.
I got the vax. How could you call me anti-vax? They think I'm making it up for some kind of crazy reason or something. Like, that's not how science works. You don't tell people who are taking an experimental vaccine.
It's really not, though. Like, it was tested and the technology for it existed, like, basically already. And they had already been studying coronaviruses for a very long time. So they basically already had a head start on this. So, and then they had all kinds of money pour in, like Operation Warp Speed. Warp Speed, remember? That was a whole thing there for a while, where they provided all kinds of funding to get this done. And ultimately, like, 2 of the leading researchers were from, like, the University of Texas at Austin and then the University of Pittsburgh. And there's a really great video from the It's Okay to Be Smart PBS YouTube channel. But anyway, they go and they talk to the professors and everything who were like some of the leading developers of the vaccine and everything. And we may watch that because it really makes it a little less, it makes it less scary. They're talking about it like it's some big freaking scary thing. And Jimmy Dore is like, just like, I don't know, I feel this and that, and it might be, I don't know. I say it is, but I have nothing to prove it. Like,
keep your reactions to yourself. No, you're supposed to tell people so we can make the vaccine safe.
Yeah, you can. You can report any side effects that you have.
Safer. They have to know what's happening. And so, but that's not the world we live in. Like I said, the left became a bunch of authoritarian conformists. And so anything that goes outside that punches their bubble, they don't want to hear it. It's crazy what's happening. But I should even be nervous to talk about my reactions to a medical treatment that's experimental because I'll be stigmatized. And that's what people are going to do. And that's the world we live in right now.
Well, you're the wronged party in this unless I'm missing something.
No, I am the wronged party in this. And nobody's going to talk about this. So right now I'm taking ivermectin. I have to take fluvoxamine, which is an antidepressant, for inflammation in my brain.
And do you believe that is from the vaccine?
I didn't have it before. Yeah, my doctors think so. That's what my doctors are saying. My doctors think
That's
so.
insane.
There's a lot of insane things happening.
But, I mean, this is happening at scale. So, I mean, there are like more than 100 million people who've gotten this, and a lot of them have been pushed effectively against their will into getting it.
I was talking to this young lady, I forget her name, when I got here, and I was telling my story, and I said, how?
I was talking to some young lady, I don't know her name. I see a woman, and I'm just like, I don't care. Their name doesn't matter to me.
How was yours? What happened with you and your vaccine? And she said, I didn't have any problems. I just was sick for a week. Oh, wait, I never had headaches before, but I get headaches all the time now. That was just what I got here. She goes, oh, yeah, I get headaches all the time now. So maybe people aren't connecting the dots. Maybe people aren't talking. I don't know. I think the more people talk, the better, because that will help science. Keeping your symptoms and your reactions.
Helping science by developing all kinds of new forms of coronaviruses, stronger forms of coronaviruses. Okay.
To an experimental vaccine secret is not going to help science.
I just have to ask you, what do you think this is about? I mean, why you think that's right?
Ivermectin is generic.
It's really not secret. Like, you can look into exactly how it was developed, exactly what it's made out of, everything. It's not a secret thing. Maybe we'll do a whole vaccine misinformation stream. Maybe we'll do that at some point.
Ivermectin is generic, and they can't make that much money off it. And ivermectin actually works as a prophylactic.
What he's saying makes absolutely no sense. Like, the reason why they're trying to cover up ivermectin as a cure or whatever garbage is because it's generic and they don't make much money off of it. They're literally handing out the vaccine for free.
Also,
yes.
And so in Mexico City, I covered this. No one else is covering this. They had their hospitalization rates in Mexico City were skyrocketing, and they didn't know what to do. So the mayor of Mexico City gave an ivermectin pack to everybody in Mexico City, and everything went that way. And so they're not reporting that, are they?
But why would...
How do you know those two things are correlated? It might have been peak, and then... No. There's no sources there. That's just nonsense. I don't know.
I mean, that's such an amazing story. It's just an amazing, like, leaving aside the moral implications of it, it's just like, that's amazing. Like, why wouldn't you report that?
Why wouldn't you report that, Tucker? Well, I don't know. Why wouldn't you report what Bill Binney said about the hack of the DNC server? You know what I mean? Why don't
the Russians did it?
He said they didn't. They said it was a local thing. It wasn't. So why aren't they? Because there's no money. Who sponsors the news? Pfizer, Moderna, right? Who? Eli Lilly. Who are the sponsors of the news? That's, so Noam Chomsky taught us, right? That's how they control the news, the ownership. Right, and that's what it is. So now that's who pays the bills. When Chuck Todd goes to do a fact-checking segment and it's sponsored by Boeing, a defense contractor, I don't think I'm getting the facts. So this is my theory.
Well, I can't think of a better one.
Okay.
Last question.
I can't think of a better one, Tucker Carlson says.
Where's this go? Like, the media, communication, information, news landscape, of which, almost against your will, you're now a part. Where does that
against your will
go?
Where do you mean? Where are we going to end up?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a mass vaccination, just to name one among many examples, but a mass vaccination campaign where people literally can't get an education without getting the vaccine, whether they need it or not, so it affects everybody.
Yeah.
Every family's touched by this. And you're not even allowed to say out loud what the side effects are. Like, that's not a system that you can keep in place forever. That's not workable over time. So what replaces it?
Boy, I don't know, but it does.
That's dark.
Okay. So in his own messed up way, Tucker just asked, so solutions. Jimmy Dore never has solutions to anything. All right.
Dark Ages stuff.
I don't see this stuff changing because they're still talking about Trump. You know what I'm saying? There's still the establishment left is still trying to make everything about Trump and his followers and how scary they are. And they're still propping up Fauci. How is Fauci not in jail? I don't understand this guy.
I've asked that question myself.
I mean, it's not. I mean, but you can't even say anything bad about him because people will go, "Well, you're a crazier." No, this guy's the crazy. He's a liar. I'll prove it to you. So I don't see it getting better. I think this is a system they're going to try to sustain forever. I mean, I don't. Things aren't getting better. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but
I don't mean to be a doomer, but yeah, I am. Jimmy, you're a doomer.
What do we disagree on, you and me?
Oh, that's so good. Oh my God, what do we disagree on, you and me? To Tucker Carlson, the white nationalist.
I'm extremely pro-life.
Oh, okay.
Very. I just think
I want to control women really badly. Really badly.
Abortion's horrible, so sad, awful. And so probably that.
Okay. Yeah.
No big deal for Jimmy.
We do disagree on that, I guess. So, but you're...
But no big deal. If AOC or something says, like, you know, I don't agree with this specific method of forcing a vote on Medicare for all, I'm going to go on rants about her for months. I am going to absolutely tear her down. But Tucker Carlson, you know, abortion, no big deal.
Consistent, whereas you're against killing people who are alive, too, right?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Big time.
Right, so that's...
Yeah, big time.
So
yeah, very much against
I just met a guy who's a fan of mine who's an evangelical Christian, and he said he's for open borders. And I said, why? And he said, because I believe in the Bible. And I was like, what? You know, I'm like, that never heard of it.
Oh, my God. Wait, you're saying there's an interpretation of the Bible that's, like, not horrible? What? I come from a Catholic household, by the way. I went to Catholic school. Anyway.
Evangelical Christian. And so what do you say to that? Like, what do you say to, like, as a Christian, we have to treat certain people, we can help them and not? How did that funnel into your immigration?
My view on immigration is that it's a government function. Our churches is not a theocracy. The church doesn't run.
What?
What do you say to that? Like, what do you say to, like, as a Christian, we have to treat certain people, we can help them and not? How did that funnel into your immigration?
My view on immigration is that it's a government function. Our churches is not a theocracy. The church doesn't run the country. And governments are defined by their borders.
Oh,
Citizenship
he's going to play the church and state separation right now card. Oh.
is if you're going to have nation states, and maybe we don't, maybe we just have one big country controlled by one government.
No. What you do is you have everything. You have incredibly small communities on a human scale that are confederated up, but the upper confederated councils or whatever are answerable to the downward structure. You don't have to have one big leader on top of the whole world. And it's like, I mean, you basically, like, it's basically what you got now. I mean, you got Jeff Bezos and all them, and you got a few people, so I don't know, whatever. Go off. For the moment here. Screw you, Tucker Carlson.
Seems like a bad idea to me. But if we're going with our current system where each country is a separate country and represents its own people and has an obligation to do that, then you got to represent your own people. And by own people in this country, this is a multiracial country, always has been. It's not defined by the race or even the language of the people who live here. That means all people, no matter what they look like. The distinction is, are you a citizen or not? That's the only meaningful distinction for the American government. Now, as a human being and a Christian, I have different obligations. So if there's someone from a foreign country comes and says, I need help, I don't say, oh, you're not an American citizen, I'm not going to help you. That's irrelevant to me, but I'm not the government. The government exists to...
So I want to kick them all out. I just don't want to be the one to do it and look at them. Okay.
help its citizens. There's no other reason to have a government. And so you have to make distinctions. And so if you want Medicare for all, you can't have open borders because the entire world will show up. Why wouldn't they? And I wouldn't blame them. I often say this in my show. I don't blame anyone in Guatemala for moving here. I
Yeah, let everybody in. Yeah.
would too, immediately.
Me too.
Of course. So they're the last people I blame. But if you want to give a good life to your people, you have to keep it to your people. That's why you're the government. That's like, it's intrinsic. It's inherent to the system. And if there's another system that you think might work, I'd love to hear it. I just have never heard of it. And so anyway, so my view is it's just super simple. It's about citizenship. And the second citizenship doesn't matter, then you're incapable of helping your people. And so, like, why have a government? You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So we just heard a whole bunch of crap. So let's see what Jimmy Dore says.
I see the, our government creating economic crisis all over Central America.
Yeah.
In Mexico, NAFTA hurt those rural farmers. That's why they're all coming. And, it turns it into factory farms, too, down there. So they're economic. They're coming here because they're desperate economically.
For sure.
Right. They're not coming here for the sun. You know what I mean? They're coming
They're coming here for money.
Right. For economics.
Yeah, but I would say a couple of things. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in Latin America, and one thing I have learned is, this is very complicated stuff. I think American foreign policy has really hurt a bunch of different countries. I say that all the time.
Yes,
I mean,
of course.
it's clearly true. On the other hand, it's one of many reasons these are screwed up countries. A. B, in the case of weirdest in El Salvador, for example, 1/3 of all Salvadorans live in the United States. Of all living Salvadorans live in the 1/3. So what do you think that does to El Salvador, actually? It doesn't help El Salvador. Like, there's still a country called El Salvador. It's a mountainous country in the middle, most densely packed country in...
He's saying, send him back.
Central America. And, like, if all the ambitious people leave, what does it mean for them? Well, I asked the president.
Incredible.
And he's like, all the people who might be building a robust, happy society here have gone, and they're working as housekeepers.
All the rest that are there, they're scum. That's what that is disgusting.
In Santa Monica. Like, how's that good for us? It's not. It's terrible for us. Same in Syria. I remember
Syria. Here we go.
Was it the Bush administration or Obama administration? It's like, oh, all the Syrian doctors are coming. It's so great.
What's that? Mm-hmm.
Well, what if you still live in Syria? Like, who's going to treat your wounds? Like, I have cancer. Oh, shit. All the doctors are, they're in Chicago. So at a certain point, like,
So what is the controversy about your immigration stance?
He knows nothing about it. He knows nothing about Tucker Carlson. This is insane. What is the controversy? Because he calls, people just, animals, basically. I mean, this is disgusting. We're going to watch a video about Tucker Carlson's whole thing after this. But anyway.
What do people...
I'm a racist!
Whoa.
It's like, don't listen.
He is.
Listen to me, because look, it's a means of social control. As I was saying, we had dinner last night. I'll just admit it. As I was saying last night, I have a bunch of opinions that are very non-mainstream, especially on foreign policy. But my racial opinions are like as mainstream and kind of boring and Dr. Seuss, like we're all created equal by God. I really believe that. We're all judged equally under the law. We should be.
Oh, he's playing so innocent right now, and Jimmy's just eating it right up because he knows nothing about him.
Rigorous in enforcing that. The same standard applies to everybody, period. That's the whole point of justice, is that it's equally applied, period. And I really believe that as like a core tenet. Like, I really believe that. So I was saying to my person, it's like, why are they, of all the things you could call me, I do have some crackpot views, like, no doubt. But they have nothing to do with race. Why are they calling me a racist? And he's like, because that's how they get you off the air. That's how they shut you up. And I'm like, and I'm such a literal person. I was like, I don't really, because I accuse people of things I think they've done wrong. I do. I never attack people for things that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're accusing me of something, it's like the one sin I haven't committed. Why are they doing that? And it's a tactic.
So you'd agree the criminal justice system is racist, right?
No. I think that well, what does that mean?
Oh my.
system is racist.
Well, for instance, it's set up to over-police poor people and incarcerate them at higher rates. Because if you look at who's incarcerated, it's that, like, for instance, there's that study that you're 16 times more likely to be arrested for cocaine if you're black than if you're white, even though they consume it at the same rate.
The powder versus crack thing is the one place where you'd be like, that had a disparate impact. There's no doubt about it. But I think I was a police reporter. I was never, I've always been a civil liberties guy. So anyone with power, whether it's a beat cop or the Secretary of Defense, bears watching. That's just been my view of my whole life. So I think there are abuses, I've seen them, of individuals at the hands of the state by cops or
Jimmy Dore. My dad was a good cop. He beat his family and everything. He was a good cop.
anybody else. So I think that's a problem. I've always thought that. I think it now. But there are certain neighborhoods for reasons that are not entirely clear, and it's not just poverty, that have way more violence in them than other neighborhoods.
Oh no, he's gonna say it's the culture, isn't he? Oh no, he's gonna say like they're all like their culture. They're all like I can't remember the word, but he's gonna do the whole racism thing.
Thought a lot about it. I've written a lot about it. I wrote a book on it. Tried to once. I don't really fully understand, but it's still true. And if you pull the police out of those neighborhoods, man, weak people get really hurt. I mean, that's just true.
No.
Yeah. And Eric Adams getting elected mayor of New York? Holy, what is that? So here's a black guy who's very liberal and everything and probably...
Eric Adams sucks. But he's just using him as a tool right now.
Corrupt and doesn't even live in New York. He's got all these kind of problems. But he's like he's like a black guy. And all the white liberals are like, oh, can't elect him. Why? Because he said exactly what Al Sharpton said, which is defund the police. That's like a Sag Harbor thing. That's what they think is cool in, what would be the equivalent in LA?
Silver Lake?
Yeah, Silver Lake. Exactly. Thank you. That's like only rich people think.
Oh my God, though, aren't these guys like they're too perfect for each other? It's incredible.
I think that's a good idea. If you're like an actual black person living in a dangerous neighborhood, you probably don't love the cops. I believe that. But pulling them out? Oh, no.
Yes, because they do the violence. Jesus Christ. They're the ones who go in and act like they start it all up. Leave people alone. You can do things in a different way, and at the very least, you can cut their budget down because there's too much. Like, especially like take LA for example. I mean, the amount of money that they spend on their police, the billions that they spend on their police, like you could use that to build public housing and solve homeless problem. I mean, one with rent control and all that kind of stuff. But
I never thought defund the police. I guess I had a different interpretation of that. I always thought defund the police was we're over-policing, we're spending too much, certainly in New York, and we could take some of those resources and give it to like social workers.
Yeah, it means a lot of different. There's defund, there's abolish. I mean, the whole thing. Defund is working to that, but you gotta do other different things too along with that. There can be community defense forces or whatever, but maybe you could slowly decrease the roles of cops and other things they do, community oversight, all kinds of different things. But Jimmy Dore has no idea what he's talking about, so here we go.
So when a crazy guy is having a problem, you don't send 2 cops with a gun, you send a social worker and maybe some guys with a white coat, and you take him to a thing. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Totally.
So that's when I hear defund the police, that's what I hear.
I just think I saw this in Iraq. I saw this in Beirut. I saw it during Katrina. The second.
You love doing that. You love bragging about all the places.
I do. And here's the one lesson I learned. Here's the one lesson I learned from all the chaos is when chaos happens and no one's keeping charge, anyone with a gun becomes God. And everyone else has to bow down before that person. And usually it's a young guy with bad judgment, short-term goals, and no regard for other people's suffering. And it becomes a freaking hellscape immediately. And you have to, and who gets hurt? It's the weak. The weak get hurt. Women get raped, people have their shit taken, people get bossed around. It's bad. That's the one thing you can't have because the weak suffer.
Okay.
Don't you think?
No, I agree with you. Yeah, I definitely have to have police, but I think we need to redo it totally And I believe in community-based policing. So right now, when they hire a new police chief, he comes in and he tells everybody how we're going to police your city. No, you should have a citizen board that's going to tell the cops how
I mean, okay. Yeah, but there needs to be more than just that. But okay.
you're going to police us. Like, for instance, just an example. Hey, when we pick up a kid for curfew, do you want us to arrest him? Do you want us to take us home? Take him home. That would be what we want you to do in our community. We don't let the cop decide.
Or maybe you get rid of the whole dumb curfew pickup thing anyway, or whatever. But
we tell the cops how to do it.
I kind of agree with that.
So that's what we need, and we need to have the community run.
Like more local control.
Yes, and you get down and you tell the cops how to police us. You don't let the cops dictate, which is what's happening. They all get their training from Israel, and then they come into our cities and they go fucking crazy. I'm sorry, can I swear? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And they all go crazy, right? So, and then half of them are staffed by ex-military.
I can't smoke and swear I'm fucked.
Which is the wrong kind of people to have. And because they're trained to see the people that they're policing as the enemy, not as someone to be served. So we need to get back to that service. But I have a bunch of videos on this. I'm very into police reform. And
I have a bunch of videos on this.
you know, there's aren't people joining the cops with good intentions? Yes. But those people get weeded out or they succumb to the culture. And there's a culture problem with policing in America. And it's not just in one city. It's nationwide, and it's cultural. And right now, I live in Los Angeles. They have the cops who live 50 miles away from where they patrol. That's wrong. They come in from Canyon Country into the inner city to patrol it. That's wrong. You can't have that. When I grew up in Chicago, my dad had to live in the city if he was going to be a cop.
Yep.
And that's a great idea. You have to live in the community that you're going to police. That's one.
Okay. My dad was a good cop. He beat his family and everything, but he was a good cop.
Big change we should do. So I have a lot of ideas on that, not just on, but they, instead of defund the police, they should call it reinvest the police money, right? That would be, maybe that'd be better, because defund does not sound good. It sounds like we can't get rid of police.
No! Jimmy Dore. How long did that go? I'm gonna ask my producer.
Oh, did we go too long?
No, it was.
Oh my goodness. That was amazing. That was a long one. Look at that. That's longer than all those other ones. Wow. They are. They're best friends. Oh my God. Okay, so I will be right back. Hold on. We're going to hand the stream over here for a second, maybe.
What do you want me to do?
So I just got to go use the bathroom and everything. I just want you to just talk in the stream for a little bit. Tell people about RuneScape and stuff.
Oh, I'm hearing an echo. That's awful.
Oh my God, you're hearing an echo?
Yeah.
Oh, what? Why?
I'm on the video, man.
Oh, because you're watching the stream?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, just pause it for a second and have fun talking. I'll be back in a few minutes.
I don't know what to talk about.
Okay. So, live react to, well, RuneScape, I guess. I mean, tell people about other, just video games and like things.
I'm currently training archaeology.
Yes, tell them about archaeology.
You go and you excavate relics, you know? Then you restore them.
Something. Do you want to react to a video while I'm gone?
No.
No? Okay. So in that, yeah. All right. So everybody, how do I put up a, what's this do? Oh boy. Oh. Be right back. Oh, here we go. Stay tuned. Okay, go ahead and talk.
Okay, I'm talking. It's a Tetra compass. We got like 3 mil from it. pretty cool, I guess. And 2 XP tomes. That was pretty pog. Guess I'm gonna restore all the artifacts I got. Probably get to the next level and go to the new dig site. Not dig site, the excavation area. In a dig site. Need more materials. Sag. Starved ceridonum. Everybody silvers. Okay. Fuck, man. Wait. Okay, rip 3 mil. That's whatever though. I guess the Tetra Compass paid for the supplies to restore these artifacts. I'll take it. Oh, fuck, I need to buy more supplies again. Oh, Karanos, yeah. I forgot about that one. Okay.
All right, we're back here at twitch.tv/municipal ecology. Is this working? Can you hear me?
Pog. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So first we got to, well, first we got to switch this window back. Let's see. Is that the one? Is that the one? Oh. Properties. Here we go. Maybe. Or not. Where are you, window? Where are you? Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, first we're going to do a Tucker Carlson feature one. Let's see. We're going to do the Boogaloo Boy one too, but I think first we're going to do Tucker Carlson, but it won't load.
Unless you're gonna stream to me, I think I'm gonna leave the call and go back to your stream.
Oh, that's right. See you, man.
See you, man.
Is this the one? Somebody made a Tucker Carlson video. That's not the one I want. Oh. Showing all over one. Man. Well, oh boy, this is probably a little, well, it's freaking The Daily Show, but we'll check it out. We'll see what it's like.
It's time to help people customize and save with Liberty Mutual.
Oh boy.
What if you could control the web with your mind? What if telekinesis?
Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson. No, 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 don't you now, don't you.
You know, let's watch this.
Content warning. This video is about a fascist movement that is committing all sorts of terrorist acts and violence, so just be aware, this is probably not going to be a chill video. Maybe if those types of things upset you, like more than the normal amount that they upset everyone, then it's not a good video to watch for you, is my advice as the guy who made it. Fascists, God's greatest mistake. We talk about them a lot on the left and tend to paint with a pretty broad brush. We like to think of all fascists as thinking the same, behaving the same, and more or less being simple to recognize. It's ironic, given the fascist tendency to despise diversity, that there's a wide-ranging diversity of thought among different fascist groups. If we expect all fascists to act alike, that allows fascists that act differently to operate unnoticed. Welcome to Know Your Fash, where we take a closer look at a specific group of fascists to see what makes them goose-step. It's my hope that by shining a light on these creeps, we can understand why they think the way they do and why they operate the way they do a little better so that we're more equipped to fight them and anyone else they inspire. You know, researching far-right extremist groups can be a difficult process sometimes. Often, they go to great lengths to hide their intentions or beliefs. This helps them attract normies and avoid being kicked off of social media platforms where expressing themselves more clearly would violate community guidelines. And that has a tendency to shield them from criticism because the dangerous or hateful things they do and believe are often not the things that the public sees. Those things are carefully hidden away, giving them plausible deniability which their gormless defenders will pounce upon. In my comments section. Also, sometimes the thing they do is when you spend a week researching a group of far-right extremists, a bunch of far-right extremists might storm the Capitol building of Washington, D.C. and recontextualize everything you wrote in a way that your video, at this point, cannot meaningfully address. That's another danger you face. You've likely heard a lot of conflicting information about the subject of today's video, the Boogaloo movement, or Boogaloo Boys. You've maybe heard that they're more aligned with left-wing extremists than right-wing ones, a popular bit of complete nonsense that right-wingers often pretend to believe whenever one of them does a terrorism. Let's just put a pin in that discussion for now. We'll come back to it. At first blush, this whole thing seems like just one big shitpost, the same type of insular nonsense meme that the online right loves to weaponize, like honklers or wojacks or... What am I doing with my life that I know what these things are? They wear Hawaiian shirts because that's what you wear to a big luau, get it? They put a big igloo on their flag. They're all in it's the ice house, everybody. LOL, it's all just jokes. And none of it is a transparent attempt to disguise their iconography so that it bypasses restrictions put on them by social media platforms whose guidelines on hate speech and inciting violence they might violate. Oh, also, another thing about them that you should know is that they're gathering firearms and munitions and training for a violent overthrow of the United States federal government. Clearing the air about them is difficult because unlike a traditional fascist movement, the Boogaloo Boys are a decentralized quasi-militia composed of a lot of different groups. Not all of them are openly...
And remember, Jimmy Dore had one of these Boogaloo Boys on his show to like talk him up and like, you know, normalize him to the rest to his audience and everything. So,
white supremacist, and some of them have attempted to express their support for Black Lives Matter, for example. The degree to which this support should be taken at face value is dubious, but we should be careful not to just make generalizations about them. What is clear, though, is that there are enough openly white supremacist and neo-Nazi Boogaloo boys that the less radicalized members effectively provide cover for the more radicalized. This muddying of the waters allows them to operate more openly and retreat behind the confusion that the inconsistencies among their beliefs provide. Okay, so in 1984, the film Break Into Electric Boogaloo was released, and yes, somehow, despite all odds, this is relevant information.
LOL.
The film is about a trio of breakdancers trying to save their local rec center from a greedy land developer, and the title references a form of funk dance called Boogaloo. But it's worth noting also that the producers of the film, Yoram Globus and Menahem Golan, just liked the word Boogaloo. Like the villain of the film The Apple was named Mr. Boogaloo, seemingly for no reason, which I mention just so that I can show you what Mr. Boogaloo looks like. It's a very silly word and a very funny subtitle. It's a meme online to refer to the second of everything as that thing too, Electric Boogaloo, while I personally maintain that it's funnier to say that thing, Tokyo Drift. You've definitely heard the joke before. It's completely played out at this point. You'd have to be a completely humorless lummox to still think it's funny. So naturally, far-right extremists eat that shit up. The Boogaloo they're referring to, depending on who you ask, is either a reference to a second Civil War or a second American Revolution, i.e. Civil War II Electric Boogaloo. That's not to say that they necessarily want to spark a second Civil War or revolution, though, to be clear, many of them certainly do, but that they wish to prepare for one which they view as inevitable and fast approaching. Whether or not such a state of affairs is desirable is a subject of much debate in the Boogaloo community. The cause of the conflict, however, not so much. Their belief is that the American federal government will, at some point, attempt to seize all firearms from the population, which will lead inevitably to civil unrest and likely the complete breakdown of the social order, which it probably would, which is why the American federal government is probably not ever going to do that. It's kind of a wild fantasy. There's more guns than people in the United States. Like, chill. They're not going to take your guns. This obsession with guns being taken away should not be surprising, given that the Boogaloo movement largely developed on 4chan's K-board, which is a subforum dedicated to weapons and firearms. The culture of K reflects the nebulous politics of the Boogaloo movement. Unlike most of 4chan, where the far-right ideologues tend to dominate discussion, K at least attempts to remain apolitical. Robert Evans and Jason Wilson of Bellingcat write, K is hardly a bastion of sweetness and light. Like all 4chan boards, it is littered with every imaginable slur. But unlike Pol, militant white nationalism is not the default ideological position. Although gun owners tend to lean right, the board explicitly discourages any political discussion. A sticky post at the top of the forum, made in October 2015, just as the alt-right culture born on Pol was turbocharging the Trump campaign, warns that discussions of politics, even gun control, are unwelcome. Similarly, the Boogaloo movement isn't really united politically aside from a general enthusiasm for gun ownership and a tendency to skew to the very far right. To call it a movement almost seems like a stretch, to be honest. It's more like a meme around which other movements tend to galvanize. All of whom are far-right extremists, to be clear. A lot of people are invested in pretending like they're not, like, for example, the Department of Homeland Security, who claimed in a tweet rebuking Politico that the Boogaloo movement is neither left-wing or right-wing, but consisted of members from both ends of the political spectrum. They went on to say that this is precisely why the mainstream media is losing credibility with the vast majority of Americans, which ought to give you a pretty clear picture of where the DHS's ideological sympathies lie in the matter. That's not the type of thing that a department of government should be editorializing about in a tweet. The DHS is wrong, according to experts, however. According to a write-up in The Guardian, one CNN article on Boogaloo supporters at protests included an interview with a man who claimed to be a left anarchist. I pause here to note that you can claim to be anything. I hereby claim to be an astronaut. And also, that as the king of all anarchists, a thing that it makes sense to be, and also, I have always been, that I hereby declare that it's total malarkey for any anarchist to be associated with these clowns. But extremism experts agree that Boogaloo ideology overall is, in fact, right-wing. How do they know? For one, they look at images of the Boogaloo flag, which is sometimes emblazoned with the names of right-wing anti-government martyrs, including Americans killed in infamous standoffs with the police at Ruby Ridge in 1992, and during the occupation of the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge in 2016. The way we know the Boogaloo movement is a far-right movement is because they draw a line directly from Waco and Ruby Ridge, said Alex Newhouse, a digital researcher at the Center on Terrorism, Extremism, and Counterterrorism at Middlebury Institute for International Studies. They hold up things like the McVeigh bombing of the Oklahoma City Federal Building and the armed response to Ruby Ridge as heroic moments in American history where citizens stood up to government oppression, Newhouse said. Another clear sign that the Boogaloo Boys are right-wing is their decision to show up with guns to guard private businesses, first during demonstrations against public health shutdown restrictions, and later during the protests over George Floyd's killing, Newhouse said. While Boogaloo supporters showed up to George Floyd protests saying they wanted to stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matter protesters against police violence, some also described going to protests to, quote, defend businesses, including big national corporations, against looters and destruction, end quote. Showing up with guns to protect big corporations from property damage is not something that most left-wing protesters would do, Newhouse said, since leftists would be more likely to view corporate stores such as Hobby Lobby as part and parcel of capitalist exploitation. Now, in a sensible world, I shouldn't have to explain to people that the Second Amendment extremists that hang out with a bunch of literal, actual, self-identified neo-Nazis are right-wing extremists. I should not need to take time out of this video to make clear to you that they're right-wing. But alas, the media and public education system have done such a bad job of explaining these ideas to people that a lot of bad actors can exploit the confusion, like Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz did, for example. Also Trump. While it would be preposterous to sit here and tell you that each and every person in a Boogaloo Facebook group or Discord channel or parlor circle jerk are card-carrying white nationalists, it is like so many other things in our increasingly inscrutable culture, a red flag that they might be that thing. The Boogaloo meme represents a common language among the far right, allowing for cross-pollination of differing groups and ideologies. It presents an opportunity to further radicalize people of various different beliefs and incite violence against the government and law enforcement. And if you just said based out loud when I said that, you might want to reconsider. This cross-pollination allows fascist militias like the Three Percenters and hardcore neo-Nazi accelerationists like the Base to preach their gospel out in the open and share tactics with whatever bumblefuck libertarians or anti-lockdown rubes are credulous enough to think it's all a big joke. All of these groups share Boogaloo memes, and it's not unusual to see Boogaloo patches on the jackets of people wearing the skull bandana, a symbol of Atomwaffen, the neo-Nazi terrorist organization dedicated to overthrowing the United States government with nukes, if necessary. It's not hard to see why the Boogaloo meme would suit their interests. And while I use the word meme, that isn't to excuse the real-world consequences of its popularization. Among other incidents, Boog boy Steve Carrillo killed a Federal Protective Service officer in Oakland, and a Santa Cruz County deputy wrote the word Boog in his blood, which the Trump administration tried to tie to the protests against the murder of George Floyd and claimed it was the work of radical leftists based on, yeah, let me check my notes here. What did they base that on? Nothing. They wasn't and they weren't. Speaking of, though, during those very same protests, 3 Boog boys were arrested on terrorism charges for, allegedly, creating a bunch of Molotovs with the intention of exploding a bunch of shit. In case you're tempted to think that they were in support of Black Lives Matter or whatever, and this is just, further evidence that Black Lives Matter is a violent terrorist organization, keep in mind that this was simply an opportunistic last-minute change of plans. The Associated Press writes, Loomis stated he wanted to firebomb a power substation, according to the informant in the criminal complaint. But on May 28th, Linham instructed the group to observe the riots occurring nationwide and use that momentum as a driving force to possibly take action against a fee station at Lake Mead on federal land north of the Hoover Dam. On May 30th, other targets discussed included a U.S. Forest Service ranger station, the complaint said. The informant stated that Parshall and Loomis's idea behind the explosion was to hopefully create civil unrest and rioting throughout Las Vegas. Perhaps most famously, 13 members of a militia group called the Wolverine Watchmen, who were all, of course, big-time boogheads, were arrested by the FBI for, allegedly, plotting to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer and overthrow the state government. The criminal complaint against them states, on July 27, 2020, a confidential informant met Adam Fox at his business in Grand Rapids. The confidential informant provided the FBI with an audio recording of the meeting. Fox said their best opportunity to abduct Governor Whitmer would be when she was arriving at or leaving either her personal vacation home or the governor's official summer residence. Both residences are located in the Western District of Michigan. Fox described it as a snatch and grab, man. Grab the fucking governor. Just grab the bitch, because at that point, we do that, dude, it's over. Fox said that after kidnapping the governor, the group would remove her to a secure location in Wisconsin for trial. You know, one of those trials that you hold for someone that you've already decided has committed a bunch of crimes that you also imagined. That ought to go well for her. I'm sure she'd be entitled to a vociferous defense. That's how you fight tyranny, everybody, is you get a small group of people together and you decide that they're allowed to kill whoever they want and make all the rules. How else are you going to stop tyranny from happening? None of this is to say that any of these guys were radicalized by Boogaloo memes or whatever. Radicalization doesn't work like that. It's not as though there's one meme that's going to push an otherwise normal person over the edge into an extremist. What I'm trying to drill into your head is that when people make or share Boogaloo memes, when they have boog patches on their jackets, when they wave a flag with a big igloo on it and stripes that symbolize everyone murdered by the state from Eric Garner to people killed in Waco as though those things are equivalent, you should take them at their word. They believe at best that civil war is inevitable and they intend to be prepared to fight in it against you. At worst, they believe that it is their moral responsibility to make civil war inevitable, and that includes potential acts of terror and mass murder. They're saying it in a silly way, they're having a little fun with the fact that they want to commit horrific violence, but they're still saying it and doing it right now, out in the open. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. I'm not gonna do an eyeball zone this week. I know I haven't done one in a while. I'll get back to it, don't worry. I haven't escaped. No one escapes from the eyeball zone, whatever that is. I don't like to do them on these videos because oftentimes they tend to attract a certain amount of hate and death threats, and I don't really want to expose someone to that who didn't sign up for it, so I'm not just going to throw someone under the bus like that. Anyway, if you liked the video, press the like button, please. I would appreciate that. You can also subscribe for more videos every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to see more videos that I make that aren't like this, but are rather about fictional horror rather than the real life horror that I was talking about today, you can find those at youtube.com/scaredycatstv, where I upload a new video every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I also live stream once a week on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on YouTube, and at twitch.tv/thoughtslime is where I do that. And I should also mention that I like getting money. And the main way that I do that is at patreon.com/thoughtslime, where people give me money. For this. For this. All right, you knuckleheads. Hey, look, it's been a rough week. I mean, it didn't start off a rough week, right? It started off all right, and then it got real weird halfway through, huh? So take it easy. Go have a nice, crisp ice.
Well, thank you, viewers, whoever was here. Thank you. Appreciate it. We're gonna raid somebody. Let's see. All right. We're gonna raid Dylan Burns. with one viewer.